Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. No intro today, Bryce, because this is going to be a long show as it is. We're going to be live for the entirety of the first round of the 2024 NBA Draft. Bryce Simon is here with me. We're going to break down everything you need to know regarding all of the picks, all of the trades, everything that occurs here on a lovely Wednesday night in Australia, in my case, Kansas in Bryce's case, New York in all of the NBA draftees' case. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, I just want the listeners to know Sam officially met my daughter Raleigh here before we started recording, and Raleigh now loves Sam, not because of anything to do with the podcast, but because he had a cat with him when I introduced her. And so now all is okay. I can record for 6 hours tonight, and Raleigh will still be Team Sam Vecenie moving forward.
I do have a kitten. My kitten is very small, very sweet, and very blind, as I think I've explained before on the show. Okay, so our first thing that we have to talk about here is a deal that kind of came out of the heavens a little bit with Deni Avdija being moved to the Portland Trailblazers for the 14th overall pick, a 2029 first round pick, and Malcolm Brogdon. And then I believe that the Blazers also sent 2 second rounders in that deal. The reason I say that this kind of came from the heavens is that everything I had kind of been told is that Deni was, I don't want to say like untouchable or anything. That always is kind of aggressive, I think, to say this time of year. But they clearly were really excited about Deni, the Wizards. Anytime I had like kind of spoken with folks around the league, I had gotten the impression that the Washington was really excited about Deni. Here's the thing, though. When a team offers you a lottery pick, a fairly good 2029 first round pick potentially, 2 seconds, and then another guy in Malcolm Brogdon that they're probably going to be able to flip for more seconds, that's just a really good deal. And I understand why the Wizards took it. I think the Wizards did really, really well with this trade. I really like Deni. I think Deni's about to be on one of the best value contracts in the NBA. And yet I still think that this is a pretty good deal for the Wizards, because the Wizards are in a place where they really need to star hunt at the end of the day. They need to go out and get like the real dude. And I think that having a value contract for a good player like Deni is more valuable in a situation, honestly, not even like Portland, because Portland's not trying to win here, but frankly, in a situation more geared toward winning now as opposed to winning later. So while I think Deni is very, very good, Deni Avdija averaged 15.7 rebounds, 4 assists last year, shooting 51, 37, 74 from the field. I do understand why Washington looked at all of this draft capital and said, we can't pass this up.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well, Sam. My initial reaction was similar to what we talked about last night with the Mikal Bridges trade, where I just like, man, that's a lot for Deni Avdija as much as I like him. And so it's weird because in one vein, you can't pass that up. You can't pass up a lottery pick, a future first, second, and whatever. I assume they'll get something for Malcolm Brogdon, I think, if they want to move him at the deadline or something like that. Maybe it's some seconds or something like that. But then on the other, like, I hate that they're trading Deni Avdija because I really like him. I think he made sense for Washington, especially on that contract. So it's a weird one where I like it for the Blazers in terms of the player they're getting. I don't like how much they gave up, though. So that's where I'm at on this one. It honestly ends up in a similar situation where I left the Mikal Bridges trade, where I think New York gave up way too much still, but I still love the idea of Mikal Bridges on that Knicks team, especially now that OG is signed up as well. And so, yeah, I mean, it's my value for some of this stuff, I guess, was off. That there is way more picks flying around, future ones even, than what I thought would be for some of these guys.
Yeah, so here's kind of what I want to talk about. So as I made my calls yesterday, trying to figure out what was going on with the draft and would ask about the Mikal Bridges thing, an overarching sentiment that kind of arose from front office executives, agents, everything like that is that in general, let's say, the trade market right now seems to be the least efficient way to acquire ready-made NBA talent right now. The draft is certainly like the best way right now because you get cost control and you get efficiency, right? The free agency market, frankly, looks like a fairly decent way still right now, especially because they've decided to smooth the cap as opposed to having it all jump at once like they did last time, where you got the Mozgov deals, the Luol Deng deals, kind of, etc. Right? The trade market right now is more of a seller's market than at any point that I can ever remember in the NBA. Just point blank. That is a crazy amount of draft capital to end up getting for Deni Avdija and for Mikal Bridges last night too, as well.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if this is, like you said, it's become an inefficient way to do it because teams, like, who's the Deni Avdija in the free agency market that a team can go get? Who is that guy? You know, as somebody who talks about a team that has the most cap space in the offseason, Deni Avdija would be perfect. We on the Pistons Pulse, we'd be talking about Deni Avdija and the contract that we want Trajan Langdon to give him day one of free agency, make that call at 12:01 or whenever it can happen. There isn't that guy. And so I think that's why it becomes inefficient in the trade market right now is these free agents aren't hitting the market. You know, we just saw Malik Monk, like that just watered down the market even more in terms of the talent because he decided just to stay home. OG, who I had Pistons fans texting me about, you know, you think he's actually going to be open to it now. Philadelphia was in play there. Apparently he ends up just staying with New York. So these guys aren't even hitting free agency. And so if you want to add talent, real talent you understand about, it seems like you have to do it on the trade market. And because of that, you're having to really pay a premium right now.
I think that is very, very right. Look, I think Deni is a really good player. Like, I think Deni is an awesome basketball player. I don't really see him as an all-star long-term, but on that contract particularly that he decided to sign during his extension window, I mean, that is a serious value for whoever decides to get Deni Avdija, you know, be it the Blazers decide to keep him for the next 4 years, or, you know, if they decide to move him on down the road. Deni Avdija over the course of the next 4 seasons, I think he's only going to make like $56 million. He is set. Yeah, he's set to make 15.6 this year, and it descends throughout the life of that deal to where he'll
Sam, we have breaking news.
12 million over the course of the next in the 2027-2028 season. What is your breaking news, Bryce?
Adrian Wojnarowski, Nic Claxton intends to, so this plays into exactly what we were just talking about, Sam. Nic Claxton intends to sign a 4-year, $100 million deal to return to the Brooklyn Nets. Sources tell ESPN. Shams, same thing, $96 million guaranteed. This is exactly what we are talking about in terms of, here's another guy who was going to be an unrestricted free agent. Teams were talking about, you know, how can we fill out our roster, get a big man, lob threat, those type of things. And Nic Claxton decides to return to Brooklyn. So it really, as we're speaking about this, it plays out in real time.
Yeah, no, it's dead on. Like it is absolutely just playing out in real time. And we're going to find out where it goes. And there's a lot of reporting right now about, you know, the Wizards and what they're going to do. I'm really interested to see 14. I mocked them Isaiah Collier in the mock draft that I filed following Deni Avdija's deal. You know, they certainly need a point guard, and I've kind of gotten the vibe that, you know, there's probably some interest there, but we'll see whether or not he's the guy they're most interested in, right? What if Nikola Topic falls? What if Rob Dillingham falls? We'll see what ends up happening with all of that. The Nic Claxton deal is interesting because 4,100 is about what I would have anticipated him to get on the open market.
Sure.
You know, I don't think he would have gotten more than that. I don't think he would have gotten less than that either. So if he just wants to stay in Brooklyn, be in New York, I totally get it. Obviously, Brooklyn is entering a bit of a new phase of their journey as a team building organization. Now we'll see what it looks like, right? We'll get to see what Nic Claxton looks like. We'll get to see what Brooklyn decides to do. Do they try to trade into the draft tonight? Do they try to, trade into the draft tomorrow? It's probably going to be a little bit easier to do that. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens with Nic Claxton here moving forward.
You know who this makes look even better is Isaiah Hartenstein, because all of these teams that were in the market for one of these two guys, now there's only him, and that may bump his money up even more. And I've kind of gotten conflicting comments about where the Knicks stand cap space wise. But my understanding is right now, after that trade, because they took in more money than they sent out, they are capped at the first apron. And with the OG contract now going in, unless they change the mechanism of the trade or send out more money in a different trade like Julius Randle or something, there's not a ton of money left over to bring Isaiah back, which means, again, if he's the best big man left and it's really him and nobody else, Valanciunas, I guess. But, Hartenstein could really be looking at maybe he gets a bidding war now as a couple teams fight to sign him with Nic Claxton returning to Brooklyn. So there's some domino effects that go with all of these things.
Yeah, the Hartenstein piece of it is really, really, really intriguing because it does now really open the door for somebody like Detroit, or at least it closes the door for Detroit. It closes the door for Oklahoma City to potentially look at Claxton and try to get a different deal. Look, I think that Hartenstein, it depends on if the Knicks are able to structure this Bridges deal in any way that allows them to go to the second apron as opposed to the first apron.
Yep. Right.
Obviously, there have been a lot of deals, or a lot of situations speculating whether or not they can add minimums to get there. They can't, because this has to be in the new calendar year league wide. Look, I just don't know. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it with what they have on their roster. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. We'll see. If they can't get it to where they can be a second apron team, I think it's really, really hard for them to keep Hartenstein, which says to me, and we'll get kind of answers on this tonight, I would think as well. If they take a big, for instance, at 24 or 25,
correct,
I would think that we might have our answer there. But I'm really intrigued to see where he ends up. And if he does decide just to stay in New York and take, 470 or so, 472, whatever the number is. I'm trying to, think about it kind of off the top of my head in terms of what the math is. I'm just very, very intrigued. I think that there could be a lot of different answers there for them.
Yeah, my theory here is, Sam, the reason that neither 24 or 25 was included in the trade for Bridges was because they are anticipating losing one of those bigs, and they would like to draft somebody there at 24 and 25 to bring in. Now, is Tibbs going to play a rookie and all of those things? I realize those questions are real, but like you said, I think we find out about a few teams. I know, again, with the Pistons, I'm intrigued where they go at 5, because I think it's the first cue to what Trajan Langdon may think about his roster that he has in Detroit right now. I think for the Knicks, if they take a big, maybe that tells you where they feel like this is going to play out in free agency. The Wizards, I think that one will be really fun at 14 now with them trading in there. If it's Collier, does Dillingham slide there? I think this draft, for being labeled a bad draft, for the lack of top end talent, all of these things, all of a sudden has generated a ton of buzz. And part of it is just these trades, these free agent signings, players signing back with their own teams, obviously not going to other teams yet. It's just, the NBA is still winning, and the conference or the NBA finals have been over for however long now. So it's just exciting to have this much juice going with the league right now.
Yeah, I think that's right. The other thing that Adrian Wojnarowski just said on the broadcast is apparently the Hawks might be down to Reed Sheppard and Zaccharie Risacher. I mean, if they take Reed, all bets are off tonight. If they take Reed, this thing goes nuts.
Please take Reed. This thing will go off the hinges if Reed Sheppard goes number 1. Please make this happen. This would be amazing. I would be so excited.
Honestly, I'm rooting for it. I'm really just rooting for it. It would be pretty incredible if they take Reed at number 1. I don't know if they're going to. Look, other teams at least think they're taking Risacher. That's not to say Atlanta is, Atlanta's the one that has to make the decision, so it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what other teams think. It matters what Atlanta's going to do.
Here's the thing, because if they take Reed, not only is it Reed Sheppard going number 1, which is going to have all of its own conversations, the DeJounte Murray, Trae Young trade stuff will immediately be even juiced back up and fired back up, which is already being talked about. And I feel like people would really anticipate Trae getting moved if they take Reed Sheppard, because a Trae Reed backcourt is really, really small. And so I think
let's just do it. Let's go for it. Let's go Reed. Let's go Trae.
I'm in. Here's the other amazing thing is, now that puts you have Sarr still at 2. Now you have Risacher dropping to 3. Does Houston take him? Does somebody try to move up for Risacher because he's dropped to 3? Does San Antonio get him at 4? Oh. Now what happens to Castle? The domino effect of Reed Sheppard going 1 would make the rest of the evening just straight insanity.
Yeah, no, that's right. Look, I'd be stunned by it still, but we'll talk about it if it happens. We'll talk about it if it happens. Okay.
Sam, somebody just tweeted at me that they listen to us on 2 time on podcasts, which I know a lot of people do. I don't know how they can understand what we say. I talk so fast in 1 time speed. I don't know how they can even coherently understand. They made the comment that listening to us not on 2X is really weird, but I don't know how they can understand. I talk extremely fast, especially when I get excited and really going. Do you listen to podcasts on 1.5X or 2X?
No, I listen to podcasts like at a normal speed.
Same.
Like the average, the one.
Yeah, no, I do too. I didn't even know people actually use the other one, but I've talked to a lot of people who listen to it on the sped up version.
Yeah, that's wild. Shams is saying Risacher at number 1, apparently. So Woj just released a tweet saying Hawks are closing in on Risacher. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
All right, so short-lived.
Yeah. Okay, so we're this did not last long.
We reeled it back in extremely quickly. That's okay.
We reeled it back in. Good. I'm glad that Woj has clarified here. Okay. That makes sense. Got 1 right on my mock. I'm happy with 1 in this year's class. I'm very happy with 1 in this year's class. Okay. If anybody has any questions here as we kind of move in, I'm happy to take a few questions. I will just kind of foreground this as well. We will be going at the speed that like Woj and Shams decide to go.
Yeah.
We will be going at that, kind of level tonight. We're not like waiting for the TV stuff. We will be talking as things get released and as things get reported by Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania. I would imagine that those 2 are tonight's guys that will get the picks. Tomorrow night, I would guess will be John. We'll get a bunch of them, Gavoni over at ESPN, and we'll figure out what that looks like. Okay. From GVUR, he asks, where do your top 3 prospects go in the 2023 draft? I think this is a good table setter for just like where this thing is.
Yeah.
I think that I would have had Sarr, etc. At like 6 or 7 in last year's draft, something like that. Would you have taken Sarr or Jarris Walker?
Sarr.
I don't know what my answer would be to that.
I wasn't super high on Jarris. My top 4 was the same as everybody else's top 4. I had Cam 5. Yeah. And then it got into, I kind of debate Black, Walker, Hendricks, all of those different guys. I was going to say 6 is where I would start with Sarr. Yeah, because I was pretty high on Cam Whitmore. I like Cam Whitmore more than most people did. So
I would take Cam Whitmore at number 1 in this draft, but I was also very high on Cam Whitmore. I don't know if that's like a, thing that would be normal to say in the public sphere.
Agreed.
Most likely player to get traded today from Jeffrey Chan. I would say
Current
Kyle
NBA player?
Kyle
Kuzma.
Kuzma lines up, I would say, in the easiest way. I would say Kuzma is the most likely to be traded. If you made me guess on what that looks like.
I would agree with that.
Kings make sense for him in a big way and something involving 13.
Yep.
That is just like kind of the easiest, simplest way to go. From Seasons and Sloan, which Raw project is more likely to stick in the NBA? Tidjane Salaun or Yves Missi? Look, if it's purely to stick, I think I actually would say Missi, if only because I would be surprised if somebody that big and that athletic failed to the point where he's not at least a backup center. If you mean like stick in terms of like being something of a difference maker or so, I think I like Salaun more as a prospect than Missi.
Yeah, I have Salaun higher on my board as well. My initial gut answer, assuming I understand the question correctly, was going to be Missi just because of what you said. I think at the very least, he continues to find roster spots because he's a lob threat and all of the thing with Tidjane Salaun is he does play extremely hard. So even just that, even if none of the other stuff comes together, maybe that continues. But as we broke down, his athleticism isn't crazy high, and maybe that limits him sticking if none of the other stuff comes to fruition. So I think in the spirit of the question, or what I think the spirit of the question is, I think I agree with you actually that it's Missi, even though I have Salaun higher and expect him to come off the board before Missi tonight.
From Just a Random Collector, I know no one is above tier 3 in your draft guide, but if you had to stake your rep on one of these guys making an all NBA team, who would you bet on, even if you're worried it'll blow up in your face?
What a question.
I think this is a good one.
It's amazing.
I think my answer might be Reed, to
Okay.
be honest with you, because I just think the downside is like greater with Reed than it is with Sarr, just because of the size and everything. But like in terms of like pure upside, I would bet on like shooting, feel, IQ, just like insane anticipation, everything like that. I think I would say Reed, but I don't have a great answer to this question.
So I think it's Sarr. I've always been higher on Sarr. Like I think, but again, in the spirit of the question, the name I will give to potentially blow up in my face is Ron Holland. I've stuck that Ron Holland is that potential two-way wing that gets buckets, defends on the other end. If he figures out the shot, if the feel was a little more of a byproduct of the G League Ignite, he has a motor, he plays hard, all of those things. So I would answer Ron Holland here because I think the ceiling is legit. And I'm very worried that it's going to blow up in my face that I, have brought up his name in this kind of conversation so much.
Okay. From Hoopster, how confident are you that Stephon Castle can actually improve his shooting? So I've talked about this a little bit. I think a big thing with Stephon Castle is that when you see him shooting to his left, I think it looks a little bit hitchier. And I think that he has like a bit of an unnatural like lean to his left a little bit too often off of a 1-2 step. I think if he's shooting toward like moving toward his right, he actually shoots off the hop. And I think things look a little bit cleaner and clearer. I think if somebody like was a good shooting coach, they could potentially look to just move him off the hop a little bit more full time as he gets more mature and like, not in terms of like emotional or whatever, but just in terms of like his body and his game and everything maturing. And then he gets more experience, everything like that. I think that he does have a real chance to shoot, made 75% of his free throws, everything like that. Yeah, I think there are outlets for Stephon Castle to be able to shoot.
I agree. And I don't want to use a cop-out answer here, but so much of this is confidence. I've talked about this a lot recently over the last 2-3 days in terms of so much of shooting, especially in game, is confidence. And I think that was a tough thing for Steph Castle this past season. There were teams who just chose not to shoot him, dared him to shoot, put defenders that were just going to help off of him. That plays in your head a little bit. So as he gets to the NBA, depending on how teams guard him, depending on how well he shoots it early in games, early in his career, maybe he goes through some struggles. But I don't think there's some major worry in the mechanics that it's some crazy overhaul or anything like that. It's just some of this is hard to project because you don't know the mentality of these guys and where they're going to be at with their confidence, because a huge part of being a great shooter is irrational confidence, because you're going to go through shooting slumps, and how well can you come out of those on the other side? And that I'm a little less on it than you are probably, Sam, but that doesn't mean I think he's going to be a non-shooter or can't get there.
From Darren Flowers, would it be smart for the Spurs to tank for next year's draft to get Victor a second star? Shout out to Darren for the super chat.
Thank you, Darren.
Would it be smart? I mean, look, like, I think that their situation is going to result in kind of a natural, like, quote unquote tank as it is. I don't necessarily think they're going to be like a playoff team next year as good as Victor is. So, like, I think that you just kind of continue to play out the string and grow this thing organically.
Well, if you play 2 top 8 picks in the starting lineup or major minutes with Victor, this is going to happen. As good as Victor is and as ready as we think he is to make a jump, does this mean you just don't make the Trae Young trade or something like that? But if you're making that trade, there's your second star. What you don't need to tank then for Cooper, Ace, or somebody like that. I'm with you. Either they're going to make a move for that second star, which it doesn't seem like they're going to, or you naturally end up with the 5th worst record, and then you just play the odds, which, I mean, I've seen a team finish with the worst record 2 years in a row and fall to 5. So I think finishing with the worst record, you're not going to out-tank the Nets this year anyway. So you might as well go win some games, show some progression, but they're going to naturally be playing young guys, rookies. That makes it hard to win night in and night out in the NBA as it is.
Yeah. What are the odds the Suns take a player at 22? I'm going to say probably, I would be surprised at 22. I think very much they might end up, taking somebody tonight. I just don't know that I'm convinced it's at 22. Let's see here. What do we got? How will Risacher fit into Quinn's offensive system? We'll answer that when Risacher actually gets picked, maybe. I'm assuming that will happen at some point soon. Let's see here. Best athlete in the class. This is a good question.
Ryan Dunn. Devin Carter.
Devin Carter would be my answer for what it's worth.
I think Ron Holland is a good athlete. Yeah.
I would go Devin Carter. I think Devin Carter, just in terms of the way he functionally moves on the court, in addition to the explosiveness, the way he has like strength across the court. I think he's just like a total freak show athlete that also combines it with like the processing ability. I think the world of him. Yeah, so this is a good one from Donnie. If the Nets traded Cam Johnson, what is the highest pick you could see him getting traded for?
Highest pick.
I think it would be like one of those deals where I can see him getting moved for a first round pick, like a mid-level first round pick. But it would involve like other salary, like going backward, and that would be kind of interesting.
Is Cam Johnson better than Deni Avdija?
No, not to me.
I agree. And there's injury concerns with Cam. And he is older. And the contract, while not bad, is more expensive. So Deni went for 14 plus a bunch of other stuff though. Like we did the DFS for 16 last night and added in like, do you think Philly would do 16 for Cam? Would Philly do the same trade, but for Cam instead of DFS?
I think no, because Cam is signed longer to a more expensive deal. I think that's my take.
What about 17 to the Lakers? Cam Johnson makes sense there. If you got 17 plus, I know you have to match some salary and stuff like that.
That's interesting. 17 to, you could do Rui and like Gabe Vincent or something plus 17.
So I talked about this on Lakers Nation just a couple hours ago, and those guys were a little sour on it because essentially you're replacing two guys that the Lakers are going to have in the rotation with just one. You know what I mean? Like Rui's going to play minutes, and then you assume this draft pick, they kind of need this draft pick to play minutes, ideally. How much is an upgrade of Cam over Rui? And then also you're giving up a potential 15-minute a night rookie somewhere in the rotation like that. So it was interesting to hear those guys' perspective on that type of move.
Yeah, no, I dig that. We got another one here. How does Jimmy opting out affect next year's approach with Miami? Oh, yeah, I think Miami is in such a weird spot right now, and they have to figure out how they're going to go about like managing their situation long term now. I liked them getting Bam done. We didn't talk about that at the top. Yeah. Bam signed a 3-year, $150+ million extension. I mean, he could have waited until next offseason and ended up getting way more if he'd really wanted to. But yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing, getting Bam under contract, making sure he's locked in for the long haul, and then kind of building around Bam from there. But, you know, I think with Jimmy, it certainly creates an avenue where they need to start well next season. And if they don't, they probably have to move him by the deadline, which would be a really interesting set of circumstances if you get Jimmy Butler for one playoff run.
Well, and here's the thing, guys. We broke this whole down with the Miami Heat offseason preview. We talked about for at length, Sam, the potential of trading Jimmy Butler, what it would mean. Would we do it? Would we not? So over in the video section, you can find that complete breakdown of their offseason where we really dove into the weeds on what this situation was for us.
Yep. Someone asked who will be predict the first crazy name to come off the board, like one that we're not expecting, maybe.
Terrence Shannon Jr. after what you said last night.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure what to expect with Shannon. I think he gets picked tonight, but like there's a chance he goes like to Chicago. But I've gotten a few other names of Chicago too that makes me kind of question what's going on there. Anybody else? Yeah, I don't know that I see. I mean, like, will people be surprised if Bub Carrington goes in the lottery?
We won't. I think other people will. I think Cody Williams, I'm a little bit lower. So if he ends up like at 5, that would be a little bit surprising. Dillingham in the top 8, like if he ends up with that Spurs pick at 8, would be something that would be surprising to me at this point. We just mocked Edey in the lottery last night, which that changes for him because that was the pick that we mocked him there. Kel'el Ware, is there a chance Kel'el Ware goes higher than what we've talked about? Is that a name?
Maybe. But yeah, he's like kind of all over the map. Like Kel'el, I think Kel'el could go like 14 or could like slip.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of guys in this class, like Rob Dillingham, Ron Holland, Kel'el Ware, really wide draft ranges. If Tidjane Salaun went 6 or 7, that wouldn't blow my mind. But like, I also think that like most people expect him to go to the Spurs at 8. So like, is that really that much of a leap?
Listen, I want to be clear. My co-host does not drop me any nuggets, but I will say Omari and James have talked about Tidjane Salaun a lot with the Pistons over the last week. I don't know if that's 5 or if that's a trade back, but they have talked about him a lot.
Yeah. So the name I've gotten with the Pistons, if it's not Matas at 5, is Cody Williams.
Cody Williams. Yep.
Yeah. We'll see if that actually occurs. Yeah. Billy Antonio. I have got a 400-word question on the Knicks center rotation. It's basically does OG play matchup 5? Maybe. I think that there are going to be lineups now where they potentially look at going a little bit smaller, especially in the playoffs. I'm super pumped. By the way, OG Anunoby signed his, or is going to sign his 5-year, $212 million contract. Once they did the McHale deal, I think it was I think they probably had a real clear indication that that's where this was going to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The more I thought about that, I would have been I would have not liked the process of that at all, if they sent out all those picks to get Mikal Bridges just to replace an outgoing OG Anunoby after they just traded the young assets they traded to get Anunoby. So once they traded Bridges, I was like, they have to bring OG back, because the roster does make sense to go match up with Boston in terms of Bridges, Hart, OG, etc. Yeah, I mean, if Tibbs is willing to play small Billy, I mean, whether it's Randall at the 5 or whatever, this makes sense to me. I'm just wondering if he's willing to, and he may not have a choice if Mitch Robb is the only center on the roster, or if, I don't know if they could trade Mitch Robb and that would open up the space to then keep Isaiah. But if they only have one of those guys on the roster, and then even if it's a rookie that they do draft, they may have to experiment with a little bit more going small. And quite honestly, Sam, you brought it up before me. I think that's a good thing. I think it would be a good thing if the hand was forced to do that against certain matchups.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it would be good as well. I mean, look, I would like this thing to get rolling here.
I was gonna say, do we have, I don't have a TV in this room. I told you I'm not gonna pull up the stream on my computer so I don't mess with the Wi-Fi. Have we started? Like, have we got anybody at the podium saying so-and-so's on the clock? What are we doing? What's our scenario?
So wrong thing here. Here we go. With the number 1 pick in the 2024 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks have selected Zaccharie Risacher. Zaccharie Risacher, really interesting player, who is 6'9" to 6'10" in shoes. He is, I can pull up my kind of draft guide as we talk through this stuff as well. You know, great measurements for the big wing archetype, 6'9.5", 8'11" standing reach, made 40.7% of his catch and shoot threes, 35% of his threes off the dribble, most of which were relocation shots. Moves really well without the ball, like understands how to play within the flow of his team's offensive system. I would imagine that's something that will really, really track with Quinn Snyder. Just being able to play really well out of like triple threats, be able to attack closeouts, be able to pass a little bit. I think he has shown some really, really smart passing ability, even if it's not always consistent at the end of the day. Really good team defender as well, like really excellent at being able to diagnose those 1-on-2 situations, covers a lot of ground on the kind of weak side of the court. Concerns here, just not a great athlete at the end of the day. Just really not all that explosive, really not all that powerful of an athlete. Really has to keep putting on strength and weight, in my opinion. I will say this, he looks way bigger and stronger than he did a season ago when I saw him in person at Hoop Summit. And that might not mean a lot, like having, looking at him in the photo that's on screen, for instance, right? You still see a guy that's pretty skinny. He was like incredibly skinny when I saw him last year. He's really put on a lot of good weight. Can he play it all on the ball is a real question. Or is he entirely an off ball kind of wing? That's what's the upside here is the real question. I think he's probably going to be a really high level starter. I think he's probably going to be a really high level starter at the end of the day. But yeah.
So my quick notes here: off the ball 3-and-D wing, potential, like you said, to grow into a forward as he fills out his body. Doesn't offer a ton on the ball. Floor spacing. I think he has a nice feel for offensive rebounds, cutting, getting out in transition. Defensively, as you said, I don't think he's locked down, but major value in a defensive system, some versatility long term. May never be a number 1 scoring option that you would like at the top of the draft, but this is a wing archetype that teams covet. I like his movement off the ball in terms of relocation, using pin downs. I mentioned the cutting and offensive rebounding. I know this is coach speak, Sam. I think he plays the game the right way. I just watch him, keeps the flow of the offense, moves to the right spots, makes the right passes. I just kind of buy into all of that stuff. I think he can be a pretty impactful defender overall. So no, he doesn't look like a number 1 pick, Sam. He doesn't have that high upside, the athletic juice, the on-ball juice. I think this is a really good 3-and-D archetype wing. And as you've mentioned, that's an important value in archetype in today's NBA.
That's dead on. Absolutely dead on. How do you think he fits with Jaylon Johnson? I actually think it's a really good fit with Jaylon Johnson, to be honest with you. Jaylon, to me, is going to be like downhill force, trying to get to the basket, playing in transition. I like Risacher as like an off-ball wing that is going to be like a really dynamic fit. And I know that like Jaylon Johnson has largely played the 4 in Atlanta to this point of his career, but I think he has a chance to play the 3 down the road. And I really like their combination defensively in being able to cover just like an immense amount of ground kind of all over the court.
Yeah, I feel like that's 2 very long wing forwards. I think they can be interchangeable. I don't know that I will care to say which one is the 3 and which one is the 4. I think they have enough size and length and coverage ability on the defensive end that you're good in regards to that. Jaylon does a lot of the passing, so Risacher just being this good ball mover, I don't think they don't need him to play with the ball in his hands there. You have Trey, you have DeJounte, even if you trade one of them, Jaylon can do, just let him play off the ball, cut, rebound, knock down open shots, keep the ball moving. This ends up being a nice little spot for him where I think he can slide right in there. I don't know what they end up doing with the DeAndre Hunter. Saddiq Bey is, I believe, restricted free agent coming off the ACL. So it's just, I like this. Again, I have Sarr higher on my board. I probably still would have taken Alex Sarr, but in terms of just this fit in Atlanta, I like that pairing of him and Jaylon Johnson in that wing forwards room.
Yeah, someone asked, do you think Risacher is a better prospect than Harrison Barnes was? I actually think that's like a really good point of comparison, to be honest with you. I really liked Harrison Barnes coming out. Obviously, he was the number 1 player in his recruiting class, but just like never kind of fully developed. I will say Barnes was more physically developed at that age than what Risacher is. But yeah, like I think that in terms of what he will be, Barnes had a couple of years where like he became like a pretty real scorer and like a pretty useful player. I would say that that's probably about what I would say Risacher's like expected value maybe is something in the ballpark of Harrison Barnes.
Yeah. And again, like it's funny, the guys we project to develop some other aspect of their game, right? Sam, we're talking about if Steph Castle shoots, if Alex Sarr shoots it, if Matas shoots it, if Ron Holland shoots it. What if Risacher, who is only just recently turned 19, I believe, won't turn 20 till next April. What if he develops a little bit off the bounce? You're telling me a 19-year-old can't work on their handle and develop it a little bit more, even if he just figures out how to attack closeouts and get downhill and finesse around the rim? I'm not saying he does. What if he fills out his body and can play through contact in the second phase? It's just sometimes it's like we think that guys can improve their shooting, but we don't talk about these other ancillary skills. And if Risacher is able to do those things a little bit off the bounce, then you're talking about a really, really intriguing prospect. So I had Sarr higher, but I don't hate this for the Hawks. I like Risacher a lot.
Yeah. You even like Zach a little bit more than I do.
I think so.
Yeah, but like I have him as a top 5 player. I have him in the top tier. And my whole thing was like, as long as the Hawks take one of those 5 guys that I have in my tier 3, which is the top group of players in this class for me, I'm going to just like not crush the pick at the end of the day because they took a guy in the tier and that's fine. Speaking of taking a guy in my top tier of players.
Yep. Let's do it.
According to Shams Charania, the Atlanta Hawks or the Washington Wizards, have selected Alex Sarr. This has been the expected outcome for quite a while. I've kind of known about this kind of going this way for a good long time now. Obviously did not work out in Atlanta. I believe that the only place Alex Sarr did work out is actually Washington. If you go back and you look at the history of what happened with Chet Holmgren, it's actually kind of instructive here. So Chet Holmgren was also represented by Bill Duffy, only worked out in Oklahoma City back in the 2022 NBA draft, ends up going second overall to Oklahoma City that season, despite the fact that there was a big group of players between Paulo, Jabari Smith, even Jaden Ivey that people liked. At number 2, this year, Will Dawkins was in that Oklahoma City front office at that time. It seems very similar to me that they have just decided to run the playbook back basically between Bill Duffy, who also represents Alex Sarr, Will Dawkins, who's in Oklahoma City, now the general manager of the Washington Wizards, kind of deciding, hey, we're very comfortable with Alex Sarr ending up in Washington. let's just go on ahead and do this.
Yeah, I like this. This is a pairing that I like in terms of player and team. Going back even before they ended up at number 2, I didn't think it was going to happen because, like I said, I thought Atlanta was going to take Sarr when the Risacher, intel, whatever conversation started building more and more, or that they would trade it or whatever. Sarr falling to 2 makes a ton of sense. I think this is something that the Wizards need. And I like Alex Sarr because he is the archetype of big that I think is extremely valuable in today's NBA. I think the offensive skill, while definitely not realized yet, is potential there. The flashes are there. It has to be more consistent. I think he eventually shoots it. I think he can dribble. I think he can pass. And then the defense is ground coverage. We talk all the time about ground coverage, and I think that's something Alex Sarr can do. So he fits right into that roster. I said this last night. If Sarr doesn't go 1, Washington should sprint to the podium, take him, and feel really good about landing him in this draft.
Yeah, so I really like Alex Sarr. He is my number 1 player. You brought up like everything that he does really well. Great ground coverage, real weak side rim protector. The key here is the offensive development.
Yes. 100%.
Everything with Alex Sarr is very theoretical on offense right now. He has a chance to be a great, perimeter player in some respect, right? Has a chance to be a very, very valuable, spacing 5 or whatever you want to call it at the end of the day. He needs to get stronger to actually play the 5.
Yep.
B, he can kind of dribble right now, especially out in transition. Like he can grab and go and do some things. But he is not necessarily capable of like creating in the half court in the same way that like an Evan Mobley is.
Sure.
Right. The jumper, he's made like under 30% of his threes so far. He clearly has like a nice soft touch, but I wouldn't say that he's a consistent shooter.
Agree.
At this point. He has like a little bit too much offhand interaction around on the ball right now. He can pass, like he's shown some passing flashes, particularly out of short rolls, but I wouldn't say that he has gotten a chance to do that all that often yet. Around the basket, like he's not an incredible finisher yet because he doesn't have the strength to be able to finish yet. So I say this to say, I love the idea of what Alex Sarr can be. And because of it's an idea of what he can be, I also just want to warn people that like this might not work out, even though I have him at number 1. And I like the informed bet that Washington is making here on Alex Sarr.
Yes. I will also say, we've talked about this, and I know we have the next pick, so I'll go quickly. What you talked about, the finishing around the rim, is why this could go south offensively. Because if he doesn't develop the necessary perimeter skills, shooting, dribbling, passing to a level that needs to be there, he isn't this crazy lob finish threat guy that wins that way on the offensive end. And then he almost becomes a negative offensively, even though the defense is very good. So I know we got to get to the next pick, but there is a little more risk here, especially on the offensive end. As much as I do like Sarr, I'm very willing to admit that I've just bought into the flashes of some of those skill set things.
Yeah. And, I think we are kind of getting to this next pick here. Has Sarr actually like gone to the podium yet? That's a real question. I don't even know the answer to that at this point. I'm kind of waiting for an official word here. I haven't seen it yet from
Shams tweeted it. Are you talking about number 3 or was Sarr?
Yeah. No,
Shams,
number 3.
Shams
Okay,
had number
Shams.
3. Yep. 1 minute
Shams
ago.
has number 3.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm looking for a different, I don't want to, no free ads here for Stadium. No free ads for Stadium. So Shams is saying it's Reed Sheppard. I'm sure it's Reed Sheppard.
Yeah.
Reed Sheppard at number 3 is the guy that we've had here.
Yep.
I had kind of figured from talking to some folks that Reed Sheppard was, if they kept the pick, the most likely option. I've been very clear here on this show that I think Reed Sheppard's a fantastic fit with this core.
Yep.
I do know that there are some polarizing opinions on that, right? is Reed Sheppard necessarily, a perfect fit with Jalen Green? I don't know the answer to that necessarily, but I will say this. I think he's a great fit with everybody else on this roster. I think he's a great fit with the length of Amen Thompson and Tari Eason and Jabari Smith on defense. I think he's an amazing fit in like half court settings with Alperen Şengün running like sick dribble handoff actions and being able to like score that way. I think he's amazing next to Amen Thompson on offense. If you had him as like your quote unquote point guard, Amen Thompson is your quote unquote point guard, playing together, Amen sprinting up and down the court in transition, and Reed is a trailer, or Reed like sprinting out to the corners in the wing, right? Or you can even just have Amen shooting down the court as soon as someone gets a defensive rebound, get it to Reed, and Reed's going to go with a hit ahead pass, right? Like crazy. On top of that, the thing that the Rockets have been missing in this core, I think, is that they need like a great shooter, I think. And Reed is one of the best shooters I've ever evaluated, just like point blank, right? Reed is an unbelievable shooter. Made over 50% of his threes this year, and he's an all-situation shooter. He made over 50% of his pull-ups, made 50% from 27 feet away from the rim or more. Made 55 or like 53%, I think, of his catch and shoot threes. He's a ridiculous shooter. He's a great passer. I am a big believer in Reed Sheppard as a player, and I really, really like this pick.
Yeah, we've really broke down the fit, and I've always liked to add that I like how he fits defensively as well, because on this team with this roster, he won't be asked to be the point of attack defender, which for a lot of people is their big negative on Reed because of his size, and he's just not going to hold up at the point of attack against, definitely it's probably going to be one position that he is able to. And that's not an issue in Houston. And my counter to people who say, well, what about him and Jalen Green? Well, who are you going to take that doesn't step on somebody's toes in Houston? You're going to take Clingan? And then how do you play him and Alperen Şengün together? You're going to take a wing whenever you have all of these wings you need to give minutes to. So and this is a compliment to the Rockets roster, Sam, that they would have this log jam of talent. So that's not a critique. It just, no matter what, this was going to happen. I agree with everything you said. And it makes sense here. Right now, we're 3 for 3 from last night, I believe, from what we predicted. So I'm sure it's about to go off the rails soon.
Yep, that is almost assuredly going to happen here coming up. I would guess more at number 5 than at number 4, but who knows? Maybe the Spurs do something strange that we're not expecting. I'm just like really excited to see this Houston group come together. Yeah. I think that they have a chance to be really, really special and terrific. And if you told me that, we look up in a couple of years and they're the team that, is really kind of loading up and looks like one of the great teams in the Western Conference, they have all the assets to go get everybody, especially after last night's deal where they've decided to, move everything for the Phoenix assets moving forward. Like they're the best positioned team now. If Devin Booker ever asks out, not to put that, out into the ether. I don't think that's happening anytime soon, certainly, but they can play the long game now and try and make it work that way.
Yeah. I mean, it is a roster that is loaded with young talent, but we saw what Fred VanVleet and even Dylan Brooks did to kind of raise the floor, maybe even the ceiling, I guess, for this team where they were very competitive night in, night out. Now you got to see how these young guys grow. And I think at some point you're going to have to make some choices just because there's so many of them, but it's a really fun team. It's a really exciting team, and they've done a good job compiling young, talented players.
Okay. I'm going to make a banner here for everybody that way everybody knows what the order has been to this point. The Atlanta Hawks selected Zaccharie Risacher. The Washington Wizards selected Alex Sarr, and the Houston Rockets selected Reed Sheppard. That's our reset here.
Whew.
We will see what we do here at number 4. Do we get a surprise, or do we just get, what's kind of expected? And that would be Stephon Castle at number 4. I've kind of gotten the impression that they've been pretty connected to him. It's some, very reasonably throughout this process. And we will find out if it's going to be Castle.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like those 3 picks just came really fast. I was kind of thinking to myself, what are we going to add into some of these picks that we haven't talked about already? And those first ones, I'm like, man, we can't even get in everything we want to get in right now. I'm having to cut myself short. And then now it seems like we have a little bit of a break. If it does go Castle, that means Clingan falls to 5. And this is the scenario we've talked about, Sam, where if Clingan goes to 5, is this when Memphis tries to make a move up? What does Detroit do? Do they just take somebody else and Clingan falls to 6? Does Charlotte take him there? Do they try to trade out of 6? So if we're going to start to get some movement, I would assume it's going to start there. And yeah, the pick is in.
We're in. It is Steph Castle at number 4 overall. Steph Castle is a 6'6" guard, wing, whatever you want to refer to him as, out of Connecticut, was on the national championship team this year. I'm excited to see what happens at number 5 now, but let's talk about Steph Castle real quick. Just a very good all-around player. My number 3 overall player on my board behind Sarr and Reed Sheppard. All of the players taken so far have been in that top group of players for me. I'm intrigued to see if Clingan ends up completing that top 5 if Detroit is able to trade out of this pick. Steph Castle is a tremendous defender, very versatile, can guard just about anybody that you need him to, except for centers. Very real pick and roll playmaker. Really has a great understanding of space despite being a non-shooter right now. Yeah, I am a big Steph Castle fan. I've had him in the top 5 or so for the last 6 months, it feels like, basically since January. I think the upside is tremendous if he is capable of improving the jumper. Honestly, if he improves the jumper, I think he has as much upside, if not more, than any player in this class. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
We've talked about this a little bit. I think somebody asked us Ron Holland versus Steph Castle. If you add the jumper, who I said earlier that Ron Holland is like, I think he has the highest upside in terms of this 2-way wing. I get it with Steph Castle though. There's the difference there is Steph Castle has that feel for the game. We've already seen it play out. We saw him go into Connecticut as a heralded recruit and then take this role that was a little bit of a step back and then just accept it and flourish in it. There's something I value about that, Sam, just being self-aware enough 100%. To know this is what I need to be for this team. Some people look at it as a negative that he couldn't be the star on that team. I don't see it that way. I mean, so I like the point of attack defense. I like his strength. I don't think he's an on-ball guy. I do think he's a off-ball guard wing, as you mentioned earlier. And so I do think the shot needs to come around for him to really provide a ton of value offensively. But we saw UConn use him in some creative ways. He would screen and short roll. He would cut off the ball. He would offensive rebound. I just think Steph Castle finds a way. I just may not be as there on the upside of what he is, especially offensively, as maybe you are. That doesn't mean I disagree with his pick. As you mentioned, 4 of my top 5 players are off the board right now. So I personally have agreed with how the draft has gone so far.
Yeah, I agree. Like, would I shift around the order a little bit in some way, shape, or form? I probably would. But yeah, this pick makes a ton of sense to me. In the draft guide, what I wrote was basically kind of what we just talked about. If he ever develops the jumper, he's one of the few players in this class that I think has a realistic all-star ceiling. It's certainly an uncertain bet, but there are no sure things in this class. And if you want to make an informed bet, and to me, that's what the NBA draft is all about. It's all about making informed bets at the end of the day. To me, Stephon Castle is about as good of an informed bet as you're going to make in a draft like this, where there isn't a sure thing.
Yeah, no, like I said, this is a guy that's very intriguing to me. I don't know where I'm at on the jumper, but I loved the intangibles that he showed this year at UConn, just like straight up. I didn't anticipate him being this type of defender coming out of high school. The high school film, I was a little bit nervous about what it was going to be, and he was really, really good. And different than a Reed Sheppard, he does have the size to guard multiple positions. 3-position defender, Sam, 1 through 3, do you think?
I think 1 through 4. I think he's strong enough to guard 4s.
So, I mean, there's a lot of value just in regards to that. And then if he does figure out the offensive stuff, I'll be interested for San Antonio how much they do put the ball in his hands, even if it's not as the quote unquote point guard, right? They can have some other point guard, but him and Vic running some ball screen stuff.
I'm guessing that they give him some latitude to play some point eventually. Do you remember what they did to start the season, Bryce?
No,
they played some Jeremy. They played some Jeremy Sohan.
No, they didn't. Bryce. That didn't happen, Sam. You're wrong. That is false.
Did you just block that out? You blocked that out of your memory?
Listen, I'm old enough that I got to start forgetting stuff, and that is something I've started to forget.
It's probably a good idea because it did not go super well. It did not go super well.
Hey, we just talked about this. We got the super chat, right? Spurs. I'm not saying that Steph Castle playing point guard is a tank move, but this isn't a team that has to go win. Why not let him play? If he can play on the ball, like, I'm aware I may be wrong about this. That's insane value then. That kind of defender playing on the ball at his size. Try it. I believe in that more than I believed in Jeremy Sohan doing it, so might as well.
I do too, but and I love Jeremy Sohan. I think I'm probably one of the higher players on him. But yeah, that was a choice. That was a very, very strange choice. I'm excited to see what the Pistons do here. This is going to get wild. I'm excited to see if the pick just ends up being Clingan and they don't have a trade announced immediately. And if they just kind of try to hold, Memphis or somebody a little bit ransom or something like that, I'm really, really intrigued to see what they do. Here's the other thing too about Detroit as we're kind of talking about this. I've kind of gotten the indication from talking to folks around Detroit that a big concern of Trajan Langdon's is rim protection.
Sure, fair.
This was the team that arguably had the worst rim protection in the NBA last season. So I'm fascinated to see just what they do here. And I don't know that, I have a full scale answer or response here.
And that's it. People who don't watch the Pistons, which you probably shouldn't have. Jaylon Tyson does not protect the rim a lot. You can go just look at his block shot numbers, and those are pretty indicative. Isaiah Stewart hasn't really protected. He's a little bit undersized. There is not that guy on the roster. And so that makes a lot of sense. It would be a huge addition to their defense, which wasn't good. I mean, they were bad at a lot of things. That's why you only win 14 games. And they got to solve one of these. They have a bunch of different mechanisms to fill out this roster and make it better.
Here's one crazy idea that I feel like we haven't talked about necessarily. If they were to draft Clingan and trade Jaylon Tyson to Memphis, would that make sense to you in some way? Yeah. I don't even know if Memphis likes Jaylon Tyson. this is totally
so I wonder if Jaylon Tyson does make sense in Memphis because Triple J protects the rim. So Tyson can just go rim run, catch lobs, gobble up. What does Jaren Jackson Jr. not do? What would be his biggest weakness? Rebounding, right? You know what Jaylon Tyson actually does extremely well? He rebounds. That might not be a bad fit, to be honest with you, Sam. Now, I don't know what that return would be, what the mechanism of all of that would be, but I don't love the idea of giving up on a 20-year-old Jaylon Tyson. I don't really want to get into that right now, but I think Jaylon Tyson would make a lot of sense in Memphis, and I think Clingan could make sense for the Pistons in terms of that rim protection.
Hey, Bryce, we have our first surprise.
Uh-oh.
We have our first surprise.
Holy cow. Wow.
We've got Ron Holland going number 5.
Okay.
So the Detroit Pistons are selecting Ron Holland according to Shams. I don't like this pick. I like Ron Holland a little bit more than what I think the NBA does in general. I'm interested to see if they're keeping this, what this is. I'm fascinated by this now. This is truly thrown me off for a real loop here. Okay. What do you like about Ron Holland as a player? Let's start there before I talk about my concerns with this.
So here's my little athletic and explosive wing. I don't think he's an forward. Who has the potential to be a high volume scorer and defensive playmaker. I said this earlier, a real two-way wing. I believe he'll be mostly an off-ball player you want to create an advantage for, then allow him to attack those opportunities. He gets a reputation as a selfish player because of the assist to turnovers numbers. I do not agree with that. I just think that he has trouble making the decisions at times, and there's real questions around his feel for the game. Defensively, opposite of Steph Castle, who's a solid on-ball point of attack guy, I think Ron Holland is more of a disruptive guy, but I think he'll have to work on his fundamentals on that end to just be more solid. I think this is a real, like, there's some upside here. There's a floor here. Like, so I would just throw these out. The floor to me is Hamidou Diallo. And these are archetypes. Hamidou, you have a few years in the NBA and eventually you fade out. The middle ground is like what we saw from Derrick Jones Jr. this year, where if you end up in the right fit, kind of just this athletic slasher, athletic, defends, disruptive, that role. I don't want to say the high end because I'll get cooked, so I'm not going to say it, but just imagine a two-way all-star level wing. But you got to put a percentage to that, Sam, and I don't know how high I think that percentage is.
Okay, so let's couch it this way. Detroit just hired, one of the 2 or 3 best shooting coaches in the league.
Yes.
In Fred Vinson.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Really important to note, really important to discuss here. Fred Vinson can really help, get these guys going, right, as a shooter. Having said that, Cade Cunningham is never seeing an open driving lane again for the next 2 years with this roster. This roster is Ron Holland, Ausar Thompson, Jaden Ivey, who has improved off the catch, but still isn't there yet. Isaiah Stewart, who has improved, but teams still don't guard. And Jalen Duren, who can't shoot. That's their core. They have to make a move. That's where I'm at. Look, there are a lot of different ways, and I don't dislike Ron Holland as a prospect, to be clear.
Yep.
I think he's a fine prospect. It's just an exceptionally strange situation to have all of this non-shooting because, how Bridius brings up, why do we have to pretend like they all have to play together right now? They don't, but at least 3 of them have to play together right now. And 3 non-shooters is too many non-shooters on the court. It's hard because I like the player. It's just going to be really, really hard, I think, for them with this roster build. Like Boston just won the NBA title based on playing the math game and shooting, right?
So here's the thing, and Hal brings up an interesting point. You don't have to play them all together, but as you said, you have to play some of them together. And right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them that don't shoot it. Like Duren is a non-shooter. Ausar is a non-shooter. Holland probably starts out his career as a non-shooter, and Jaden Ivey is a bad shooter right now. So you're at least, even if you split them up, you're playing with 2 non-floor spacers. And then do you have the legitimate floor spacers to fill out the other 6 spots? And so that's where the question for me comes, unless Fred Vinson is able to come in, or to me, the problem that solves a lot of this is a floor spacing big. Like that would help this team so much. And like you said, Stewart's just not there yet. Listen, there's part of me that loves the swing. I don't know.
Do you know what this almost I wonder about? This is what this makes me wonder about. And we'll find out when they extend Cade or not this summer, right? This is the kind of move you make if you're not sure Cade is your guy, in my opinion. Because Cade Cunningham is the exact player who needs space to operate. And instead, you've taken a guy who will give you less space to operate. I like the player. They have to make moves now. If I'm Utah, I'm calling about Ausar Thompson and Jaden Ivey right now.
Yeah.
Right now, literally right now. And seeing where this goes. Okay, so we have it seems very clear that in some respect Charlotte is trading this pick, which I ended up suggesting that they would trade it to 5. I think that may have made more sense than this, but whatever. Let's see what ends up happening here. It seems like Woj and Jake Fisher are saying that they're working through a trade. It doesn't seem clear who it's with.
It seemed like they maybe reported a trade and then walked it back. Is obviously my phone's blowing up right now, but just trying to piece some stuff together. It seemed like that's what happened. Is that what happened? That maybe that.
So, well, I think that they never reported that like a trade is done. It was that, there are teams that are working on making a trade here, basically, which makes sense because Portland is the team that you had to jump. Portland's the team you had to get ahead of because Portland will take Clingan at 7, I believe. So it's 6. And really, I thought at 5 was where this would be smart. And by the way, I don't know who was taking if you're Detroit, I don't know who was taking Ron Holland at 6, 7, and 8.
So that's what will be interesting to me is, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if we haven't had the movement yet. So it'd be, are we Clingan fallen a little bit more than we thought, Sam? Like have him not being off the board yet? Did we?
Not really.
Okay.
Like 5 or 6 was always the spot for Clingan. After, if Risacher was going to go 1, 5 or 6 was the spot for Clingan. And that is just kind of the reality. Yeah, I'm waiting for this. It seems like in some way they're going to move this pick, which is smart. So let's talk about this from Charlotte's perspective real quick. So Charlotte, my impression has been, okay, so Shams is now coming in.
Well, that changes it. That they're not taking him to trade him to somebody.
They could be taking him to trade him. To trade. Not impossible that this could be to Portland, but it looks like Fisher may have gotten this wrong. Charlotte is taking Tidjane Salaun, according to Shams. This is something, shout out to Kristen Peak. Kristen Peak was on this earlier. She did a great job nailing this over at Yahoo. This is definitely, so that's the pick that we kind of mentioned. Would people be surprised if Salaun went 6 or 7 before the show? Shams thinks they're apparently keeping it. So with Salaun, the key here that you have to know is that it seemed very clear to some teams, not to say this was certain, but to other teams, that if you wanted Tidjane Salaun, you had to get ahead of San Antonio at number 8. So what do you think of Tidjane Salaun? And what do you think of this selection by the Charlotte Hornets? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I actually kind of like it and understand it.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. It breaks tiers for me. So in regards to that, I don't like it as much. I'm interested in Tidjane Salaun. We did the whole breakdown on him. You guys can check that out in the videos portion. Plays extremely hard. He's your prototypical 3-and-D forward, but he has to be able to actually shoot. He's got to figure out some of the stuff offensively. I don't think he does a lot off the bounce. I do think he's an instinctual cutter, rebounder, those things, and gets out in transition better than anybody in terms of that. Defensively, I think he really has to figure out the nuance of defense, but he does have the foundation of just playing extremely hard. So I like him, but I had him in a tier below a few guys I still have left on my board. And because of that, I don't love it as much if, say, he was outside the top 10 or a little closer to 10.
So in the draft guide, this is literally the first sentence of the scouting report that I wrote. Evaluating Salaun is arguably the most complex assignment in this class. Has great tools, came in at 6'8 3/4 without shoes to pair with a 7'1.5" wingspan, 9'2" standing reach. Enormous dude, right? Plays incredibly hard, has unbelievable basketball character where like he just goes, man. He plays aggressively. He is physical. He is always given like 100%. That's the reality of who he is. And I love watching him play. Can't run your offense through him, but hit 31.6% of his threes, 33.9% of his catch and shoot threes overall. Real kind of late bloomer is the easiest way to put him. Got cut from the French under 17 team in 2022 even, and then has just like exploded the last 2 years. Was great at Basketball Without Borders in 2023. And then this year, like really, really, really blew up and was great for the French under 18 team at the Euro Championships last summer. And then this year became an even bigger and more real prospect. Here's the issue. Really raw. like really, really raw
Yep.
and a project. I do wonder at times like what his processing is like. Really sometimes has like these questionable moments where you kind of wonder like, is he completely aware of his surroundings out there? Weirdest issue is the finishing. Made 40.8% of his layups in half court settings this season, which is like a crazy number that is almost impossible for how big he is. Doesn't have a ton of left hand touch. Jumper is still relatively inconsistent. All threes are shots at the rim basically, which is fine for who he is as a player. Handle is pretty loose. I don't really trust him like putting the ball on the ground, frankly. But I like the idea of him as like this dude who just plays hard all the time. He's just going to go. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to be kind of all over it every single time. I think that Charlotte could use somebody like this. And I love the home run swing on some level. To me, 5 and 6 were the most obvious trade back candidates I've seen in a long time. And I just truly can't understand, even if you got like a lottery protected first round pick, like forget even like a real first, like get a lottery protected first round pick. I would have done that to move from number 5 or number 6 down to number 9.
So here's what I'm wondering. Is Memphis think that Clingan's going to fall? Well, no, he's going to go 7 here. Did they try to get up and not able to? Do they have somebody else that they like? I would be interested to know where Memphis's thought process is with this.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they do try and make a deal with Portland or something. Maybe they're just comfortable at 9. Like I get the impression that they're okay at 9 or they're comfortable moving back. There are a lot of bigs in this class. Maybe they feel okay with that. Maybe they feel okay with something on the trade market, right? I'm very interested to see what that looks like. Somebody asked, why wouldn't you do a deal with Portland if you're Charlotte? If you think Portland is going Clingan? I will say I had gotten a lot of steam for Salaun also to Portland potentially.
Yeah.
I think that they would take Clingan over Salaun. I don't know that. And other teams were kind of under the impression that they would take Clingan over Salaun. But I don't think that if Charlotte wanted Salaun and wanted to end the night with Tidjane Salaun, I don't know that they could have known for sure that they could have ended up with him at the end of the day.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get back and get some value with that. Salaun at 6 that's early for me. I would have liked to see him trade back and get him. This was my first tier break of the night. So
yeah, this is one undeniably where I would have traded back. And same with Detroit. Like I would have traded back.
Yeah.
I like the players. They're in my tier group here outside of Clingan. And with both of these teams having centers already, I get it. Not taking Clingan. But for me, I would have traded back here instead of it. Like, and I think my price point, everyone will say, well, you need to have other deals on the board to be able to trade back. I think that my price point would have been lower in a trade back than maybe what 5 and 6 with Detroit and Charlotte seemed to be potentially.
Or maybe teams weren't as interested coming up, but yeah, I wonder if those guys, it just seems like the value of getting something and still getting your guy just makes so much sense. Maybe the trades weren't there. Maybe the options weren't there for him.
Okay. Number 7, Clingan is going to Portland here.
Yep.
So on the face of it, this will seem like a bit of a strange fit. They have DeAndre Ayton already. They have Rob Williams. Why do this? The impression I have gotten is that they love Clingan. They thought he was one of the best players in the class, first and foremost. Second, if you watched Portland last season, they had some of the worst screening bigs I've seen in a long time. And you have Scoot Henderson here. And Scoot Henderson, needs some help. Having a great screener next to Scoot, I think, is one of the best ways that you can help accelerate his development. You have Robert Williams, who we just don't know what he is right now because of the injury situation. He could be something great. He might not be. We just don't know. We've seen greatness from Rob Williams defensively. We just don't know what it is now because of the injuries. So given that, I am very curious to see how the Clingan and Scoot thing works. I'm guessing they probably just do they keep Ayton for a year? I think that they might just keep him and then bring Clingan along slowly. I don't know. I'm really intrigued to see how they manage the situation. I would imagine if I'm DeAndre Ayton's representation, I'm trying to get him out of Portland immediately. But yeah, that's where I'm at on this. I think this is a completely reasonable pick. And if you didn't love the DeAndre Ayton experience this year, I completely understand not valuing Ayton enough to take a player that you clearly have very, 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 very highly ranked, which is the impression I've gotten the whole way from the Portland side.
And as people have talked about before, when we've mocked Dalton Knecht to the Blazers and stuff like that, Clingan maybe can erase some of the defensive deficiencies on the perimeter from a Scoot Henderson until he hopefully gets better, from a Shaedon Sharpe, et cetera. And then, he helps you on that end of the floor. I think they overpaid for Deni Avdija, but overall, them coming out of the last 2 hours with Deni Avdija and Donovan Clingan, I think is a really good day for Portland, just in terms of the players they acquired. Again, I think they overpaid in draft capital for Deni, but bringing in those two guys, I really like this for Portland. And then they can start building things out. The guy that I'm interested to see what happens is Duop Reath. If they do keep Ayton, are you just going to keep Duop Reath and not give him many minutes? There's got to be a team out there that would be interested in his skill set to bring him in. Or do they move Ayton sooner and let Clingan go ahead and start and Duop gets the backup minutes? So that big man rotation is going to be interesting in Portland.
Yeah, the two teams that it feels like are not done on the trade market right now to me are Washington and Portland.
Yeah.
Portland just has a lot of, overlap in terms of players right now.
Yeah.
They aren't in the tax situation anymore, which is interesting for them. They're not pressed to do anything now, but they do, have this overlap where I just don't know if they're going to want to deal with that, in their locker room and things like that. So we shall see what this looks like. Someone brought up the Nets. The Nets are another team that I would expect to continue making moves as well. Yeah, fascinating deal. Fascinating. Okay. I'm surprised that there has not been a trade yet. I am surprised that neither Charlotte, the two teams that I thought would make a move were Charlotte or Detroit. One of those two did not make a move. So that's where I'm surprised.
Can we reset real quick here? Just where's your board at? What's BPA as we have San Antonio?
Mine would be Cody Williams.
Okay.
Followed by, and I would love a Cody Williams pick for them. Cody Williams, Devin Carter, Bub Carrington, Dalton Knecht. So all five of my tier 3 guys are off the board within the first 7 picks. And now we're into this big group of players where it could kind of be anybody, it feels like. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Spurs, kind of do anything here. I've gotten, you and I have talked about this. We talked about this on the last episode we did last night. I've gotten so many different names for this Spurs pick at 8 that I truly am not sure who they'll actually go with.
Yeah. So Knecht is actually my player here. The names you mentioned, plus Buzelis, Nikola Topic, then, like you said, and then the guys you have, Carter, Bub, Cody Williams, those are all the names here up for me as well as we get into this next group. This is the range I'm kind of excited about. We're about to get into the part of the draft where I think value really starts to meet talent. Uh-oh.
Shout out to PFT commenter. The Lakers should draft Andrew Hurley to basically force his dad to work for them. That's glorious. Shout out to PFT. My goodness. Yeah. So if you made me pick 2 names here, or let's go 3 names, I would say it's probably going to be one of Knecht,
Cody,
Matas, or Cody.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do here. This is an interesting position for them to be in because, again, the steam late was that if Salaun is there, that they would take Tidjane Salaun. So we shall see. Maybe it's a surprise. Maybe they do like freaking Rob Dillingham or something. Who knows? Let's just like go crazy here. Do Dillingham and Steph Castle.
Just have your backcourt right there.
Yeah. How about that? Okay. Let's see. Where are we at?
Get one. Here? Shams just tweeted. Oh, you called it. You called it.
What? Who
Rob Dillingham.
I mean, I definitely didn't call that. That's a surprise to me. Oh, so no. Oh. It's not San Antonio.
Whoa.
This one is interesting. This rules. Okay.
What is this? Absolutely what is the move? What is the trade?
San Antonio selecting Rob Dillingham at number 8. He could be on the move to Minnesota. So this is fun. Over the course of the last couple of days, I'd gotten a little bit of steam and I'd projected in a mock yesterday that Minnesota was looking to move up for potential point guards like Isaiah Collier, Nikola Topic, and potentially Rob Dillingham. I will be intrigued to see if they're able to get this done. So here's the name that makes the most sense to me. If this involves Naz Reid, this makes a ton of sense across the board.
Yeah.
Naz Reid is a great fit with Victor Wembanyama. I don't know. This is fun.
Okay, so here's what I will say. I'm definitely lower on Rob Dillingham than most. This is definitely in my next tier of players. It's quite a few spots. But what have we said from the beginning about Rob Dillingham? You put him on the right team that can insulate him defensively, and it works. Yeah. Is there a better team to insulate him defensively than Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, and Rudy Gobert? I think it would be hard to find another team that does it better than them. And then Naz Reid with Victor Wembanyama in a front court. Talk about skilled and trying to guard those two guys. I know we don't know that that's officially what the trade is, but man.
So Woj is saying that Minnesota is traded for the 8th pick.
Okay.
This is happening. Look, again, I'm not quite as high on Dillingham. I had Dillingham at like 15. He is the last player in my tier here, though. But for Minnesota, this makes 17. A crazy amount of sense, I think.
For what it's worth, I have him at 17.
Yeah. Look, they don't have like a ton of future picks to be able to do stuff like this. So this is like a fascinating situation. What are the concerns with Dillingham? Let's go with that.
Sam, it's size. Like I think we talked about this. I compared him physically to so many different dudes. First, it was Malik Monk, who weighed way more than him, 30 pounds more than him coming into the league. Then I did Marcus Sasser, who every time I watch Marcus Sasser play, I'm like, man, he looks small. And Dillingham is smaller than him. And Sasser was supposed to be a good defender coming into the league. And I don't think he's a good defender in the league because of his size. So I think Dillingham is going to be a huge negative on the defensive end. But man, in a vacuum, there are not a whole lot of dudes that can get buckets the way Rob Dillingham can.
So the thing that I think went way underrated about Rob this year is that he was very scalable both on and off the ball. He was comfortable playing with Reed. He was comfortable playing with DJ Wagner. He was comfortable kind of playing a lot of different roles across the board. Now, the issue again is defense. I just don't know. I don't know if he's actually going to be capable of playing in the playoffs. That's my main significant concern.
Yep.
Can he play in the playoffs? This is a team that like wants to win in the playoffs. I just don't know if he can. And by the way, speaking of like questionable playoff players, we might have another one here coming momentarily.
Yep. Just went down.
So let's pull this up. I want to see this to confirm it. So let's close the loop on Dillingham first. The Timberwolves are trading a 2031 unprotected first and a 2030 pick swap to the Spurs for Dillingham. That's a lot. That's definitely a lot. I'm intrigued that the Spurs only wanted one pick, but I guess that this is extending that asset out a little bit farther. Okay. Shams has it as Zach Edey is going number 9 to the Memphis Grizzlies. So I have Edey a little bit lower than this, but don't totally mind this pick. I have Edey at number 17. He is outside of my tier group here. Why is he outside of my tier group? Because I really worry about him playing in the playoffs. Like I truly am concerned about him playing in the playoffs. I thought that if Memphis wanted to trade down, that it made sense to take Edey. They must have felt that they needed to do this here because I had been told Zach Edey had a great workout in Utah. I heard he was awesome in Chicago. Or I don't know if he had I heard Chicago was interested. I don't know if he had a great workout in Chicago. I had heard Portland at 14 liked him, but they moved out. Edey is going to be able to play minutes in the NBA from day one. Like he is going to be physical and strong, and he's going to be really, really hard to deal with. Having said that, is he fast enough to kind of keep up with the NBA? Like, how much are you going to have to adjust your scheme with John Morant, who loves to go up and down, loves to play up tempo, loves to like really sprint and go? I'm interested in this, I would say. I don't like nor hate it. I understand why they did it because Zach Edey is an absolute ass kicker. The other thing about Zach Edey is he is an awesome character kid and is highly, highly, wildly competitive, which is something that the Memphis Grizzlies, like they love the intersection of great people and like highly competitive people. I'm fascinated to see what this looks like with Jaren Jackson. I'm fascinated to see what this looks like.
So one thing I will say is they're going to still have to go get another big because, Edey's not going to be able to play 30 plus minutes, especially as a rookie. So unless they're going to play multiple minutes
I will push back on that just slightly. Zach Edey, we just watched him play 40 minutes a game in the NCAA tournament.
Fair. At Purdue, in their style, not running up and down the floor, not getting put in ball screen after ball screen after ball screen after ball screen, where they're going to force him into a switch or they're going to make him guard multiple actions and stuff like that. So I'm not saying he can only play. He's also a rookie, Sam. So how many rookies come in? All I was saying is I can see Memphis still wanting to add another guy to play along with him, especially here early on. I think what I feel is my biggest takeaway right now, for the most part, is instead of these teams trading back to get quote unquote better value on these guys, they're just taking them where they want them. Zach Edey, we're not going to trade back into, wherever. We're just going to take him at 9. Ron Holland, we're just going to take him at 5 instead of trying to trade back. And maybe there was nobody that was wanting to trade up. Maybe they didn't have the choice because, Edey was number 20 on my board. This has gotten a little bit crazy in terms of what I had after those first 4 or 5 picks.
So we're up at number 10 now, and I would imagine that this was the ultimate sprint to the podium moment for the Utah Jazz because they are taking Cody Williams.
Yep. Makes sense.
According to Shams.
Yep.
Cody Williams, if you would have made me bet like who the Jazz, like if they were going to try and trade up for anybody, I think I would have bet that they were trading up for Cody at the end of the day. So the fact that the board ran out the way that it did is like a unbelievable home run. This is an incredible, incredible home run for the Utah Jazz to end up with Cody Williams. What do you like? I can't remember. You like Cody Williams. You don't like him as much as I do, though.
Correct. Yeah. I'm a little bit lower. This is where I like Cody Williams. I didn't like Cody Williams in the top 5 is where I was at. I like Cody Williams here. And I like this for Ron Holland. I thought this would be a good Ron Holland spot. Ron Holland obviously off the board. So I like this as a Cody Williams spot because he's a versatile wing, can play off the ball, but possesses some skill to do some on the ball as a second side creator, high feel for the game. The shooting Can he hold true with higher volume? I would like to see him be more aggressive, just overall mentality and show his talent. I think he's got to add strength. And then defensively has some versatility, good touch around the rim, back on the offensive end. So I like this. This is a real, I talk about Ron Holland being a real two-way wing. Don't you think Cody Williams has those same, and Cody has the feel for the game already. He just doesn't have quite as aggressive of a mindset as what we've seen from Ron Holland.
The key is betting on Cody Williams and his frame to develop, because he plays a somewhat similar game stylistically, I think, to his brother, where he wants to try and get to the basket. He wants to be a driver to the rim. Whereas Jaylon is going to try and use power and leverage. Cody right now just has to use his stride length and try and get to the basket. But when he gets to the rim, unbelievable finisher. He made 74% of his shots at the basket this season. That's the best number among all non-bigs in this draft class. The big key also to remember with Cody Williams is that he suffered an ankle injury, and it was really, really sapping of his overall game. It completely changed what he wanted to do and what he was capable of doing well. Because of that, we didn't see the best of him in the NCAA tournament. We didn't see the best of him in the late season for Colorado. Early in the season, though, before that injury, Cody Williams was averaging 15 points and 5 rebounds and, was passing the ball well and was playing point at times for Colorado. Moves really well without the ball. They would really, he throws early skip passes, finds his teammates, does a really good job filling transition lanes, uses his height to throw touch passes. I think this is a really, really good pick for them. They also just needed an upside swing. In my opinion, Utah just really, really needed a high level upside swing to kind of fill out this roster and go from there. And this is what Cody Williams is, at least in my opinion. 6'6", 7'1" wingspan, long, has real skill on the ball. This is a pick that in 3 years might look great for them.
Yeah, no, I think I've mentioned multiple times that I've been told that I was holding Cody Williams. I was discounting him too much and not taking into account the injuries enough. The ankle injury. Some people push back when I bring up the broken nose thing. I played with one of those masks and I hated it. It absolutely messed with my depth perception. I believe his was a broken nose. So then you can be worried about it getting hit against. I do give him a little bit there, just having to play through that. Your first year in college is hard, making that adjustment. So there is a little bit of that I try to give. There we go.
Chicago Bulls are going to take Matas.
Yep.
So Matas is going to stay in Chicago, which is where he's from. This is an interesting pick for the Bulls. I am not quite as high on Matas as some people are. I had him at 12 on my board. You ended up with him a little bit higher than that, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep. I had him in my top 10.
So I'll ask you, let's do the positive first, because you're a little bit more positive on Matas than I am. What do you like about Matas?
I like the idea of what Matas is as an archetype. So in that way, I'm higher on Matas, where if Matas Buzelis shoots it, then I think he's a really versatile forward that can dribble, pass, and shoot. I know a lot of people gave the Franz Wagner comp. Sure. I guess that would be the idea of what he becomes. It's just, can he actually become that? That's my big worry with Matas. He probably is a little higher than what I'm even comfortable with. I just really value this forward archetype. And I do think he's a little bit better defensively than what you may initially think. His feet are a little bit slow, but he does have good length. He is vertically athletic, those type of things where he can get back and recover. And so I think he can give you some defensive value. It's just, if the shot is, I don't know what to think about the shot, Sam. We talked about the jump shot with a lot of these guys. This one has my mind in such a pretzel between what he did his senior year at Sunrise, what he did this year with the Ignite, what I've heard from people in all aspects of the mechanics look broke. Oh, he's going to shoot it. He'll get there eventually. I'm not worried about it. I don't know where I'm at with the jumper, because if the jumper's there, I think this is a good NBA player.
I agree with you if the jumper is there. I just don't know if the jumper is there. And I don't know that. This is fascinating with Knecht kind of still on the board here at 12. I I'm really interested to see where the jumper goes to. I don't know that I buy the jumper totally, and I don't know that I buy the on-ball upside with him.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately kind of where that intersection of concern for me was why I ended up with him a little bit lower. But athletic, right? Like very good athlete, obviously. Had real moments, I thought, as a defender this season, like was effective as an off-ball defender. Was always available on the weak side, had a lot of blocked shots, like really likes to go up and get those shots if he's capable of going to get them at the rim. Was not an effective finisher this year. I didn't think either. Made just 49.4% of his layups in half court settings. And that's in the G League where like there are not many great rim protectors, and there are open driving lanes and passing lanes and everything. So I'm just like a little bit skeptical of this. I'm skeptical of him as a player in general, while also acknowledging that he has size, and if he shoots it, it's hard to see a world where he doesn't become at least a good rotation player.
So that I agree with you. I think where I ended up, even with him, with Salaun, with some of these guys, I value this archetype of forward. We talk about this all the time, kind of like trying to get a 4-man that really fits in there, that's skilled. And so I think I may have overvalued. I'll find out. I'll learn a lesson from here. You said we're going to do this episode a couple months from now. I will learn this lesson of, am I overvaluing this just because I think it's a really valuable archetype, and I bump guys a little bit too much, just kind of searching for that archetype of player, that type of forward that's a low man rim protector and those things.
And here's the other thing. Like I had Matas down at 9 on the mock. Like everybody connected the tell 'em dots with Detroit.
Sure.
By the end of the process, I'd kind of like gotten the impression that wasn't a certainty at all.
Yeah.
So I don't have like a great feel for how a good many teams feel about Matas. A lot of the conversations I've had are like really questionable, but like, we'll see. He's an interesting player for sure. And now we're up with Oklahoma City, and we'll see what happens here. We'll see if I end up looking stupid for my Bub Carrington.
Well, we have
thoughts.
That's what, like you mentioned, Dalton Knecht. To me, he is a faller right now. This is not what I was anticipating for him. We kind of knew Topic was going to be. I think Devin Carter, I don't want to say he's a faller, but I was kind of wondering if he would, be off the board at this point. Bub, we have all these bigs now. Obviously, Edey already went, but we're getting, Flip and some of those guys. Are they going to start coming off the board soon? Talked about Collier earlier. That number 14 is coming up. So this is really interesting part of the draft for me. I'm very excited to see where some of these teams go and where these players end up.
So just a reset in terms of who is on the board still.
Yep.
We've got Devin Carter still here. We've got Bub Carrington. We've got Nikola Topic. We've got Jared McCain. Is that it? Is that all the lottery-ish guys that are left?
You said Knecht, Topic, Carter, Bub, McCain. Some people had Jacoby Walter as a lottery guy. I didn't personally. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, Jacoby Walter's another one. Jacoby's a good one. Yep. Topic was always a question here because of the torn ACL. Like I had him at 10. We're sitting here at 12. He's still there. Dillingham is like the guy who kind of jumped up because it feels like Minnesota was able to consummate a deal with San Antonio, and they're just the ones that took the deal. If Dillingham hadn't gone there with Minnesota moving up, I really don't know where he would have gone, to be honest. That would be really interesting to me. But look, this thing is just always, this is the way the draft is, right? Like it takes one team to skyrocket you like 5 or 6 spots up the board, and you end up getting, something that you really, really like. So, and now like if you're Oklahoma City, and Oklahoma City is in an interesting position here, do you try and get like another pick in this range because maybe you like multiple of these players? Like maybe you like Knecht and you didn't expect him to be here, and then you also like a Bub Carrington or somebody like that, right? Because Knecht, the other thing with Knecht is like they're gonna have to pay Isaiah Joe at some point here, coming up, like maybe as soon as this summer. And like Knecht could come in and just like replace that for them. Like that'd be a really good idea for Oklahoma City, in my opinion.
No, that's what we've talked about, like McCain and some of the smaller guards in this range. And, do they make sense? Connected a little bit bigger, can play on the wing. And yeah, if you don't feel like you can keep Joe, do you bring Knecht in and be able to do that? Obviously there's the defensive concerns, but it, kind of like what we talked about Dillingham, I think Oklahoma City has the defensive infrastructure to insulate that a little bit on that end of the floor. I still, Bub makes sense. If you really want to guard people, Devin Carter would be, that would be another just point of attack defender that could just lock people up and make it really fun. So they got a few different ways they can go here. And we haven't even really talked about the bigs. If they, there's been Kyle Filipowski talk at one point. I've been on a lot of Thunder podcasts where they did ask me about DaRon Holmes, Kel'el Ware, those type of guys, if you want some of that. So I think they have a lot of different options here. Seems like it's slowed down just a little bit.
Yeah. This makes me wonder if Oklahoma City is like trying to potentially like get another like player or something, maybe. Like maybe they're trying to get like another pick. Like, could be using their time to try and negotiate like a few different potential options, maybe. So I don't know. This is interesting. The fact that it's slowed down this much for Oklahoma City makes me question, like, are they kind of looking at a few?
They made a pick.
So I see it. I'm kind of waiting for a second source because Jake already got one thing a little bit questionable.
Shams tweeted it also.
Okay, cool. No shots at Jake. I really, really like Jake, but I kind of wanted to confirm. So it looks like where we're at is Nikola Topic is going to go number 12 overall. So this is where we're at. Nikola Topic per Shams and per Jake Fisher, who had it first. This is funny because like they just traded Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, and then they just replaced Josh Giddey with Nikola Topic.
That was my first thought as well, Sam. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but it's absolutely what I thought.
Yeah. So this Nikola Topic is like very similar in a lot of ways to Giddey. And what's interesting about this is like Topic is a very on-ball player.
Yep.
And they have their on-ball guys, right?
Yeah, that's why you just traded Giddey, right? Because you couldn't give him on-ball reps.
Yeah.
Listen,
I don't love this.
I don't like questioning Sam Presti and what they do in Oklahoma City. My initial gut reaction is I don't love the fit. I like the value in terms of where I have Topic, but if you're going to go guard, I guess with Caruso, Carter maybe doesn't make sense anymore. Some of those guys I don't know. This is interesting.
Okay. So let's like try and think this through a little bit more. I'm guessing Oklahoma City was just like, this is the top player on our board.
I think they have.
Right.
I think that has to be the rationale here.
The other players that are left here, Knecht, I think makes sense, but like Oklahoma City, I feel like they don't draft super old a lot of the time, and Knecht is older at 23 years old. Carrington is the name that I'd gotten quite a bit for them. I'd mocked it there. Obviously, throughout the year, Nikola Topic was seen as like a better prospect than Carrington. So that's different. But what I like it about Carrington there is like on and off ball, like real scorer, shooter, can make decisions, everything like that. Devin Carter is the other name here. And when Carter goes, I'll kind of explain a little bit of what's going on there. But Carter, they just drafted Alex Caruso. They just traded for Alex Caruso and just drafted Cason Wallace, right? So like not an enormous surprise that we would be in this circumstance.
And do we think this ends up being a redshirt year for Topic, Sam?
That's the impression I've gotten, is that it could be.
Okay. Because of the knee.
I will say that throughout the process, the impression I've gotten from teams is that Nikola Topic and his team of agents, Michko Rasnatovic, everybody there, felt quite comfortable with where Topic was slated, right? Felt very good about where this was going to go. It felt like they had a floor. I don't know that it was Oklahoma City that was the floor, like point blank. I'm not sitting here telling you that like that's what this was, but I'm not surprised to not see Topic fall out of the lottery, at least based off of what that kind of feedback had been to me. Yeah, this is the first Oklahoma City pick in a while where I'm like just a little bit questionable on it, I guess, more than anything.
Is the redshirt year make it more intriguing in terms of maybe a year from now, some other thing? I don't think so, because the guys we're talking about playing with ball in hand are still going to be on the roster even a year from now.
Yeah, and look, like one thing that we talked about on the show that we just did last night was people asked us if we thought that the Edey trade would change anything for them on draft night. And our response was no, that they tend to just draft who the best players are on their board and they go from there. So you know what, like in that vein, this is like the most extreme example of that, right? This is literally taking the guy that is like the most overlap with Edey. It has some overlap even with like Caruso and Cason Wallace and Shea and Jaylon Williams in terms of just like on ball, and saying, fuck it, we just think he's good at basketball, we're going to take him.
Yeah. I mean,
and the other thing we know too is, I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're good.
The other thing we know too is like both publicly in terms of, what Sam Presti and everybody has said. And I can tell you guys, like privately, like Oklahoma City really liked Josh Giddey. Like they liked him as a player. They liked having him on the team. It's just that they ran out of time in terms of the contract. And then Josh Giddey was very public about, and Oklahoma City was very public that Josh did not want to come off the bench. So it makes a little bit more sense when you put it that way. I just don't know that it is the pick that I would have made or like the one that I love necessarily.
So where I will give Oklahoma City a little bit here is I talk all the time about not breaking my tiers, and Topic is in a tier with a couple other players that are above. I mean, quite honestly, quite a few players that have already gone. And this is obviously just my personal big board. Knecht is still higher than him, and I think makes more sense as a fit. But if Oklahoma City is sitting there, and based on how all of this stuff is played out, Topic is the last player in a tier by himself, then even by my own draft philosophy, I would tell Sam Presti, if he asked me, which he obviously never will or does, take Topic. Do not break our tiers. Take Topic, and we'll figure it out from there. It just seems kind of funny after they just made the Josh Giddey trade in the similarities in these guys' game.
Okay, so we've got another pick. I'm fascinated to see if this ends up being one that they keep. My guess is that it is, because of just kind of what I know. I want to pull it up on the screen first. Okay. From all of Jake Fisher, Shams, and Woj. Woj is just the first one that I see here. The Kings are going to select Devin Carter. So from what I understood, this was Devin Carter's floor on draft night.
Okay.
Was the Kings, as long as they kept the pick. Now, the question was, are they going to keep the pick or not? I'd gotten kind of mixed things, right? I'd gotten real questions in terms of whether or not, that was going to be a thing that happens, whether or not they were going to keep it or not. I know that there were some trade talks that, maybe fell through, maybe not. We'll see. Honestly, maybe they decided after the Avdija one that they wanted to keep somebody, and just have them around for the rest of, maybe the Wizards with Kuzma or whatever decided they wanted to keep things around, etc. Right. Okay. So Devin Carter makes a ton of sense with Sacramento. He had a great workout there. Devin Carter was thought of as like a guy that could go in the top 10, there was like a minor shoulder thing, I guess, that happened in a workout throughout the pre-draft process. And my impression is that it's fine. Like it wasn't a big deal for most teams. But if like he ended up slipping, 1 or 2 spots, like don't be stunned. Carter's one of my favorite players in the class, like point blank. I have him at number 7. He was my top rated remaining player on the board. Absolutely a fantastic player that is going to help them, I think, as soon as possible next season, and will help them be an impact team, hopefully.
Yeah, I like this pick a lot for them. I had Devin Carter number 10 on my board. He is in that tier that I was just talking about. So Dalton Knecht is now the only player I have left in that tier. He is the guy that has quote unquote fallen the most for me based on where I thought he was going to go. So this is very interesting. Devin Carter's really good. I know people say, hey, they just signed Malik Monk. They have Herder. I think this, I don't, they have some other holes they could have filled here, but with Carter on the board, you add him into that backcourt. I really like that. I think he can play. You can play any combination of those guys. And what he gives you is a real point of attack defender. He rebounds the ball. He spaces the floor. He can play on the ball whenever they need him to. They may not need him to do it a lot, but he can if they need him to. If you need to make a move for Herder or something like that to acquire talent somewhere else and balance the roster, this opens it up for that. Somebody just texted me and said, what's your favorite pick of the draft so far? And I texted him back. I said, the one that just happened. I really, really like this for the Kings getting Devin Carter at 13.
Yeah, I think that this might be my favorite so far as well. More than anything, what I think this does is it balances the skills on the roster more than anything. I wonder if they look to potentially move Kevin Herder now. That could be an option. Like I know he's obviously been, rumored across the board in trades and everything like that. That wouldn't stun me if they decide to move Kevin Herder
Sure.
because now you have Devin Carter, you have Malik Monk, and you have De'Aaron Fox kind of as your core group of guards moving forward. Keon Ellis is another guy that like is really, really valuable for them. Keon Ellis is a really good defender, good wing player, has really improved as a defender, but Devin's just kind of in a different class, honestly. Like he's the best athlete in this class. He's a fantastic rebounder, unbelievable rebounder, a great defensive player. He is a truly, truly great defensive player. He is awesome. He has great range on his jumper, where I think that because of the way the Kings play with all of their length kind of all over the court and, how they like to get up and down and how, Domantas Sabonis is going to be on the block creating at times. They, like to have guys that can potentially space out to 27, 28 feet. I think he is a fantastic, fantastic basketball player. At the end of the day, like this is my guy where I'm like, this is like a Jaime Jaquez level dude that I think comes in and plays immediately and is like really, really valuable from day one for the Sacramento Kings.
Yep. And we've talked about it, the versatility we think he can offer defensively, point of attack defender, who really benefits from this, maybe Keegan Murray a little bit. Cause Keegan Murray, I was just talking to somebody about this today, the defensive matchups that Keegan was having to take. And I think that obviously took some energy from what he had offensively in his legs. Devin Carter can come in and do that without, I think, giving up much on the offensive end, maybe so that some of these other guys did. So I think Keegan Murray really benefits from Carter being on the roster and taking those matchups.
He gets every loose ball. He gets every single, if he's out there, he's getting the ball.
You're about
he's just one of those dudes that just like wins. Devin Carter is a winning basketball player. There's just not another way to put it. Awesome dude and a winning basketball player. Okay.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for your take on this one.
I don't have it yet. I don't see it on my list.
Shams has it
at this point. Shams, where are you at, man? Come on.
Can I just tell you?
Yeah, tell me. Go ahead.
Your guy Bub is going to the nation's capital.
Bub! Let's go.
I kind of sneaky love this draft for the Wizards. They get Alex Sarr and Bub getting the 2 spots on this roster where they needed some talent.
I love it. Let's go.
I like this draft.
Bub Carrington goes number 14. So in total, that is 12 of my 14 players, I think. No, that might be 13. Might have gone 13 of 14 in the lottery.
I have 12 of 13, Dillingham and Edey being the outliers, Knecht being the one guy in my top 13 that's not off the board yet.
Yeah. It looks like out of my top 15 players, 12 of them went in the lottery. Okay. Bub Carrington, I had at 8th overall. I love Bub Carrington. He is an awesome, creative, playmaking guard who is a tremendous pull-up shooter, can really, really attack in that way. Like, he is a fantastic player out of ball screens. He is a guy that grew from 5'8" as a sophomore in high school all the way up to 6'4" now. He is a very, very real high upside swing for a Washington team that really needs like a point guard swing. More than anything. Like, that's the position that they required. I buy Bub as a scorer from certainly the 3-point level and from the mid-range level. He is an absolute assassin from the mid-range. He shot over 50% on incredibly high volume from the mid-range. He is a guy that is improving getting to the rim. I think that is the one weakness. Can he continue to develop getting rim pressure at the end of the day?
Sorry. Yes, I agree with that. That's, he really relies on the pull-up jumper. So while it's good, you would like somebody who's going to play on ball, be able to pressure the rim a little bit more. That's definitely a question. I like his defense. I think, I should say, his defense got better throughout this season, and especially some point of attack defense. So I just, Sarr and him, I like this for Washington. You have this wing room of Kispert, of Bilal. Kuzma's still on the roster right now. And then you put Sarr there, you put Bub. This is a team that's interesting to watch for me. I don't know how many wins it's going to translate to right away. Not many, but they're not trying to do that right now. But getting these two guys is really fun for me. And this is a team I will be really interested to watch next season and moving forward.
Yeah, I am too. I think that this is an absolutely fantastic draft for them. And they get the extra first round pick.
Yeah, all the extra picks. Yeah.
Like, they've done really, really well tonight.
And they still have one more tonight. So we'll see who they end up with at 26.
26 they have, yeah. This is a really, really just sharp night overall from Washington. Michael Winger, Will Dawkins, those folks in that front office, they certainly do have a lot of respect league-wide. Will Dawkins certainly as an evaluator. Michael Winger is a strategist, somebody who can really run the show and have a really good overarching look of what is happening across the league. Bub, this is a fantastic, this is a really high, like, kind of upside-y kind of team now. They're going to be like horrendous this year. They're going to lose like 70 games this year. Like, it's going to be really bad. But Coulibaly, Sarr, and Bub, like, those are three guys that you can squint and look at and go, okay, like, we have a direction now. Like, we have a goal. We know what we're looking for here. Like, this is a positive kind of way to look at things.
Yeah, I like it. It's, Sarr fell to them there at 2, and then being able to trade back into 14. Obviously, I assume, they didn't know the draft was all going to fall this way, but they made that move with Deni. They got insane value for Deni, as much as I love him and the contract and all of that. And then you add a talent like Bub, again, at a position that makes a lot of sense. So cannot say enough so far right now. I realize it's draft night. We don't know how these guys are going to turn out, but I really like it.
Yeah. We're up at number 15 now. We've got the Miami Heat. What did I tell you about Dalton Knecht when we talked about Dalton Knecht, Bryce?
Wait, what is going on here?
So I don't know if Dalton Knecht is going to the Miami Heat, right? I have no idea. But I've always thought that the best way to access Dalton Knecht's upside is to send him to a place like the Miami Heat.
Yes. Yeah, you've talked about this.
To send him to a place like the scheme that they run with all sorts of like actions with off-ball movements. You'll run him in dribble handoffs with Bam Adebayo. I don't know if they're going to do this, but if it does result that Bub Carrington fell from the lottery to 15, this is a like blessing in disguise for Dalton. Now, they have to take him at 15, and we have no idea if they're going to take him at 15. But this would be like a really good outcome for him, and I'm fascinated to see what they do.
Yeah, I think this would be an interesting fit. It would give him some flexibility with what they wanted to do with Duncan and Tyler and all of that as Knecht grows into his role. I just like we talked about this with Dalton's just the best player on my board. Yep. And I don't want to say like I don't want to say it's not even close, but he's definitely the best player on my board is what I will say.
So for me, it is close. Like I had Dalton lower than you. I had Dalton at number 9, right?
So who's right there? Who's next on your board then?
Yeah, the guy that Miami just took.
Okay.
According to Jake Fisher.
Okay.
Jared McCain. So this is something I mocked. I had McCain to Miami. I'd kind of been clued in that this is a thing that they really, really like. That they really, really like Jared McCain. They like the shooting ability for much in the same way we just talked about with Dalton, right?
Sure.
Guys, a guy that can come off, run dribble handoffs with Bam, can really shoot the ball, was the best transition shooter in the country, in my opinion, this year. I think that Jared McCain has way more upside than what other people do. The guys that have really tended to work as undersized guards and undersized scoring guards, particularly in the NBA, are the guys that are like elite level work ethic, elite level character, and super fucking strong, right? Jared McCain is really strong. Sure. He's like a really physical dude out there who like is no problem bumping and like moving dudes with his shoulders and can guard like on the ball. I think at this point, I think Jared McCain, this is a great pick for Miami. I had him at 14. He was the second highest rated player on my board. I love what's going on. Oh no, Jake. Oh no. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Yep.
What do we got? Jake, no. Jake, no. What happened?
Yep.
Oh no. Jake from Shams. Miami's taking Kel'el Ware, it looks like.
Yep.
Oh, Jake. Oh, buddy. Oh, we might not be able to pay attention to Jake anymore tonight. That's tough. I'm sorry, Jake. Jake's a really good guy. Yep. I'm sorry, man. Okay. So Kel'el Ware, let's go with Kel'el Ware, the Miami Heat. They could use more bigs.
Yeah, this actually makes a little more sense to me, them going with a big that can theoretically space the floor and provide some of that as opposed to another guard. I agree with everything you said about McCain. And just in terms of where players are on my board, McCain would have made more sense. This is Ware is now, I have him at 25, just to be completely transparent. So this is quite a bit lower than Knecht, even Jared McCain. McCain was right there with me as well. He would have been the next 2 or 3 players after Dalton Knecht. But if you're going to, floor spacing, all of that, there's some, seems like Ware maybe have answered some of the questions about the motor and whatever else. There's real intrigue and upside with him. So I think this is something Miami needs.
Yeah. Okay. So how to talk about this? I like the talent. And I think that the absolute best case scenario for the Miami Heat, I think the absolute best case scenario for Kel'el Ware is to land with the Miami Heat. Because his level of activity and energy on tape, not like in terms of work ethic and everything,
correct,
really shows up as a concerning part of his game.
Yep. Agreed. Anybody
who I've talked to who has met Kel'el Ware will tell you he's like a really nice kid, like a really good person. Like there's no like character concern there.
These different conversation.
The activity level and like the caring and the I don't even know if the caring is aggressive. Like I think he cares about it. It's just like I don't know if he knows how to like I don't know if he knows how to work yet, maybe is the way to put it.
Extra effort, getting a check out, chasing this rebound out of your position. Like those are the type of things that stood out to me. Totally
right. So putting him in Miami is amazing because if those are his weaknesses, you hope that Miami will be able to fix that and get that out of him. And if they can, he has an immense ceiling. He has an absolutely immense ceiling that could potentially work well playing with Bam, because if he shoots it, there is like a real potential to be able to play with Bam and be able to space the floor next to Bam.
Yep.
I don't love his processing and feel either, is my worry. I just didn't love the way that he kind of played in terms of like his passing and his decision making. I want this to work for Miami, and I want this to work for Kel'el, because Kel'el has gone through a lot of people questioning him and like, frankly, like questioning like his character on some level. And like, that's not fair.
Sure.
Like last year, like Oregon was like freaking Dana Altman was like out here just like absolutely crushing Kel'el Ware, like in terms of like what he was bringing in practice. Like it was pretty crazy, I thought. So I'm intrigued by this pick. It's not a pick I would have made.
Agreed.
But if anybody is going to get the most out of this player that has a very, very, very high upside in terms of his tools, I do think it is Miami, and I'm glad that he went there at least.
And I will also say, like I immediately started talking about the potential. Hopefully I mentioned potential. If I didn't, I should have. It is potential floor spacing, right? He shot 43% from three, but on 40 attempts. For his college career, 95 attempts at 34, 66% free throw shooter, career negative assist to turnover. So this isn't the dribble, pass, shoot big of, let's say, a Kyle Filipowski or somebody like that. There is a lot of projection with this skill level, but he also has great size, athleticism. If defensively he gets there and he can kind of figure out, he has the tools to be impactful on that end. So you're right. This may be even more so a nice fit for Miami in terms of what they would need in a big. I think it's even better fit for Kel'el Ware to hopefully get out the best in his game and what he can potentially become.
Oh man. Oh, what a wild ride we went on with the Miami Heat there. What a wild ride. Jared McCain, I'm interested to see where he goes now. Because few really interesting spots here. I think that like the Lakers would be really fun for him.
That's what we mocked. Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued for sure. Let's see here. Do we have anything?
No, that's what.
Yeah, I am so glad that like Washington, by the way, took Bub and like he's gonna get to stay home. Like that's a fun deal. He's gonna get all sorts of like upside, chances. He's gonna get every opportunity, it feels like, to be able to get a real run at it and playing the point, right, and everything like that. So I'm definitely a little bit thrown that Knecht is still on the board, but at the same token, like again, this is part of the reason why I had Knecht at 9. And honestly, like if I had, I had to file the rankings, I think like June 9th or so, like it was pretty early in the process. I probably would have had Knecht, I think 11 behind Holland and Salaun. I would have had him ahead of the Matas Topic group, but yeah, like I do think that being 23 years old and not playing defense is like a real issue for some teams, it feels like.
No, and that's what like I've given it its caveat and how I feel about it, but I understand people who don't care that he has taken the path that he has and still is not a good defender and that he's older. I get it. Like I give it the caveat, and I think he can really space the floor, and I think he can really, at the very least, he's gonna and then also has the potential, to get real buckets. So I think he's intriguing for this next group of teams that are coming up, with the Sixers, who can legitimately go just about anywhere because of their roster. The Lakers can always add floor spacing around them. So Knecht or McCain or Jacoby Walter makes sense. Orlando is going to could end up with one of those three guys still on the board, if not multiple of them. Toronto, we talked about this last night. We don't have a great feel. So I think Knecht, McCain, Walter, those guys should really be in play here coming up with the next few picks.
Important note here. Bub Carrington was just booed because when asked cats or dogs, he said cats. I don't like dogs. He apparently was attacked by a dog when he's 7, but shout out Bub Carrington being a cat guy. I sit here with my dog right next to me, but wait, you got to meet the little kitten tonight. She's a very good kitten.
I don't like cats. Also, dogs are kind of, we don't have pets at all at our house, but no, I have we have cows, Sam. You're writing, like you're contributing to a website while we're doing this also?
We have it all preset already. The writing. Yeah. We have it. I've written it all already, basically. John gets to do the hard part of having to react rapidly, whereas like I've already written the 130,000 words. Like we can consolidate from there. Like we can figure out what to say for me from there.
Okay, here we go. We got one.
Okay, we got Jared McCain at 16 to the Philadelphia 76ers per Shams Charania. Oh man, we gotta make sure we're getting second sources here outside of Shams. Jared McCain, for all the reasons we said, like, look, it's hard to talk about Philly just because Philly doesn't really have a roster right now.
Yep.
But I really like Jared McCain. I think he's an outstanding player. I think he's a really, really, higher upside swing than what people think at the end of the day, because people will look at his size. They'll look at like his lack of pop, everything like that. And they'll say, oh, he's just like, he's a low upside Seth Curry kind of floor spacer. Right. I don't see that at all with McCain. I think he has more on ball upside than that. I think he has more ability to create a little bit than that. He's definitely like a ball screen guy who like really needs to get those in order to be able to be successful. But yeah, I do like Jared McCain here, and I'm interested to see what the fit would be with Tyrese Maxey, who is the one guy that they do have on this team now.
Yeah,
other than Embiid, obviously they have the backcourt guys that's on this team.
Yeah, McCain is interesting. He provides floor spacing. I think you said it well earlier when you talked about like just smaller guards that succeed have to have this kind of this strength, and I think McCain has that. I think McCain can get to the rim. What I'm nervous about, do you think he's going to be able to actually finish? Like where are you at? Because I think this kind of determines where his ceiling is offensively, if he's more than just a floor spacer. Do you think when he attacks closeouts or uses a ball screen, I think he can probably hit a mid-range pull-up? Do you think he's going to be able to get around the rim and finish? Is he going to be able to get around the rim, draw help, and make, like, how do you feel about his passing and stuff like that in terms of when he's attacking off the dribble?
Yeah, the passing is the real question, right? Like I can't sit here and tell you that I think he's like some amazing passer. I don't know what that's going to look like for him. I think that he is more of a scorer. It's like I don't even know that like I want to say like names, because then it looks stupid when I say names, right? Yeah, to me, like I really like McCain's ability to shoot, score, get into the mid-range. I think he finishes really well around the basket. And how the passing develops, I think, is going to be almost the key to what he becomes down the road. He's not a selfish player at all.
No.
Like not even remotely close.
No. I wasn't implying that at all. If that's what it sounded, I just was curious if he was going to be able to get in there and finish, or just what it was going to be if he was able, because I think what teams will do is they're just going to try to run him off the line early in his career, right? Like, don't let him get the shot off.
Yeah, but I think he can attack off the line. Like, I think that he can get into that, like mid, post area, the mid-range area, the elbows, places like that, and be able to get into like floaters, be able to get into pull-ups. I think he has like the juice to be able to do that. And I think like he can keep guys like on the hostage dribble, on his hip. Like he's strong enough to do that. The other thing about McCain is really, really good at using his frame and being really, really powerful.
Sure.
I think is the way to put it. And being able to like just kind of play in that manner.
Yeah, we've talked about this. I love this part of the draft. This is where I think teams are getting real good value. So Jared McCain for a Sixers team where floor spacing should be a very important part around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and however else they build around the roster. I think the Lakers here at 17 have a lot of interesting places they could go with Knecht on the board still. We've talked about some of the big guys. Tristan da Silva is still there. This is the area where, especially with Knecht falling, some of these teams have real options. And I think they're getting a real good intersection of talent with where they're picking. So I'm excited to see where this plays out. And then we talk about Orlando at 18. I think Jacoby Walter going to Orlando would be an awesome fit for him and a great addition in that backcourt. So, and then
I agree with that too.
And then we get into some of the big guys. We haven't seen Filipowski. We haven't seen Yves Missi. We haven't seen DaRon Holmes. So we're about to get into the range for those guys as well.
Yep. So the last thing I'll bring up on McCain before we get into like the whole, next set of picks, right? The character is like off the charts. Like everybody I've talked to, like work ethic, unbelievable. Weight room work, like among the best players Duke has had in the weight room in a long, long time. Just like across the board, really super like high character dude that you can trust you get the most out of whatever he has. I will be interested to see if like Philly keeps this. Like I think they'll probably keep the pick, right? But my question was always, does Philly move this pick or not? Because that would make the most sense to me potentially.
Yeah, that's what I think. This range of picks is where we talk with Philly. Maybe the Lakers would move it. But if not, like you say, I still like what he can do there in terms of spacing the floor for them. But if they ended up using it, okay, there we go. Lakers pick is in.
All right. Lakers pick is in, and it's going to be a fun one. So the Los Angeles Lakers have selected Dalton Knecht. I think this is like a easy selection for the Lakers. I can't imagine that they thought Dalton Knecht would be there. I had Knecht going 6 to Charlotte. It's looking back on it with what I kind of knew Charlotte was looking for upside wise. That was probably a bad mock draft slotting, but Knecht is this incredible off-ball scorer. He is a fantastic, like you're going to run him off of sets. You're going to run him off of actions. You're going to get him loose. And I think this is actually really good for the Lakers because what the Lakers are going to do under JJ Redick was very clear in his press conference earlier this week. We care about math here. We care about shooting the ball. If there's anybody who's going to know how to get shooters loose, it's that man. JJ Redick's going to be able to run all sorts of fun actions to be able to get Dalton loose. And teams are going to have to guard him from day one. And when you have Anthony Davis and LeBron James and Austin Reeves, you want somebody like this to be able to run around the court, sprint around the court, and be able to have defenders just like come at him, right? And have that floor spacing for your stars. So this is like a really, really good fit from an offensive perspective.
Yep.
Defensively, I got some worries. I'm intrigued by the idea of having Anthony Davis as like a backstop for him. I think Austin Reeves got way better defensively as the season went on. It seemed like he struggled early in the year, but then as it went on throughout the year, he was way, way better later.
Yep.
But on the ball, him and Knecht, I do think will get targeted in a real way.
Sure.
If I'm the Lakers and I'm JJ Redick and I'm trying to build this team now, I'm saying, okay, we're hoping Anthony Davis like leads us to a top 15 defense. And then now we've got like this great rotational guy who's going to be able to come in from day one, hopefully play that way. And then be able to hopefully just knock down shots and score at the level we need like a secondary player to, because he's the kind of scorer that doesn't need the ball in his hands all the time, which is really what the Lakers needed on offense.
Yes. And we've talked about the Lakers needing scoring punch, and this kid can do it. And we just talked about where age and some of that thing can be a negative for him for teams higher than this. For the Lakers, it's a positive, right? You get a 23-year-old, that is 5 years older than some of the guys we've talked about earlier in this draft, that ideally his body is ready, his maturity is ready to come in and contribute in this way. And we saw him just, at Tennessee get bucket after bucket. And you're right. I think a lot of people remember the games where they put the ball in his hands and just let him go to work. I think off the ball, running off screens. And it sounds like JJ wants to do that with his guys. So now you can do it with Austin Reeves, or you can do it with Dalton Knecht. My initial thought is AD is just going to have to be a monster defensively for this to build out and be super successful. But with who was on the board, I think I like it. If you're going to go with this, maybe with Jacoby Walter, you get some of the floor spacing and a little bit more defense, but I have some questions about Jacoby's defense as well. And he's a little bit younger, may not be as ready as what hopefully Knecht will be. So I think if Lakers fans, whoever, I think they should be excited about this. This is a home run. I have to say that for me, just based on where I had Knecht ranked, my tiers and all of that. So.
Yeah, look, like I'm very happy to see Dalton Knecht land in a spot that I think will know how to utilize him properly. We have another pick here.
Yes,
we've got from Shams 30 seconds ago, Tristan da Silva going to the Orlando Magic. This might be one that I mocked, if I remember correctly. Tristan da Silva, by the way, shout out. Our guy Jake is back. Our guy Jake had this early. He's back. We got it. We're ready to go. I like this a lot. I think that some people will wonder why they did this, because it conceivably has overlap.
Sure.
With some players.
That
right?
was my first thought with it in terms of, do you disagree then?
I disagree for one thing that I'll say in a second, but they have Franz Wagner. They have Paulo Banchero. They have all these bigger, wings that they like to play with. Right.
Yep.
My opinion on the way that the Magic get good is that they play Suggs as the nominal quote unquote one. And then they let Paulo run the point, or like let Paulo and Franz be the
Paulo
main primary
is your
ball
other
handlers.
Paulo and Suggs is your quote unquote backcourt.
Kind of. Yeah.
Quote unquote.
And I don't know if Tristan da Silva is a, starter even long term. Like he might be like a 6th or 7th man, but I think he's definitely that. If you guys watch the film room I did with Tristan, he is so smart. He is so intelligent, real shooter, can shoot, going to his right, going to his left, shoots off of screens at a super high level, shoots off of relocations, unbelievable off ball mover, unbelievable cutter that you have to account for at all times. Really sharp on defense, not overly quick, but makes up for it by just being big. And also just has the brain for it. He's really, really smart. I think that he might be a rotation player. Like he truly might just be like a rotation guy at the end of the day. But if your belief is that the Orlando Magic have their 2 all-stars already, which happens to be my belief, I think going to get a Tristan da Silva who allows you to play as big as you possibly want on the court is a good move to create further lineup flexibility for your team moving forward.
Yeah, no, I like it in regards to the off-ball movement stuff. So you're going to have the ball in Paulo's hands, Franz's hands, and you said it. So this is, I don't know if this guy we'll talk about tonight or tomorrow at some point, but I thought at one point I was saying Bobby Klintman, I thought was the best cutter in the draft. And then the more tape I watched of Tristan da Silva, it was Tristan da Silva. And
honestly, it might be Ron Holland, speaking to the team behind you there, but it's one of Holland or da Silva, I think.
But also defensively, I think on the ball, you talked about, I don't think he's a great point of attack defender, but I think he'll be a good off-ball defender that just gets into that scheme. They find the way to utilize him and all of that. That I think where are you on the frame? Because he is a little bit skinnier, and that I just worry about the physicality of the NBA. Is he going to be able to hold his line on drives? Is he going to get bullied defensively on rebounding, those type of things?
So somewhat worried, I think is a fair way to say it. Definitely somewhat worried. I would really be interested to see what their plan is in terms of accounting for his lack of rebounding. And generally, he is not like the most physical player on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Now, Orlando is a pretty physical team as it is. Like Jalen Suggs is physical at the point of attack.
Yeah.
Paulo is physical. Like Franz, like will go into you with his shoulder and has like no problem with that. Wendell Carter, like pretty physical, right? I am really intrigued to see what they end up kind of doing to account for those aspects of Tristan's game. Because from a skill perspective at his size, he has all that stuff. But I would like to see Tristan get stronger, get more physical. He's obviously already 23, so like you can't project as much physical development for him as you can for younger players. But I like the skill set here. I like the fit of the skill set with Orlando.
Yeah, no, that's my initial thought was a back, like a guard, but I like you brought me around on, okay, if Paulo's essentially your primary initiator, Suggs is your off-ball guard, then there's Da Silva, there's room for Franz, and so there's plenty of room. And he doesn't have to start, right? Like we're in the range of the draft now where we shouldn't be projecting all of these guys to be starters. Even guys that, at the top may not be starters, but if Da Silva is your seventh man, that's still fine value in my opinion at number 18.
If he's your seventh man for 3 years, like if he doesn't play a ton this year and then he's ready to be your seventh man, second year, third year, fourth year, when he's 25, 26, 27, it's a huge win. It's a huge win.
Yeah. And honestly, that wing room isn't as crowded as I thought once you get past.
Well, they lose Okiki probably this year.
Yeah, and neither of us are higher on Jet Howard. Caleb Houston, Ingles is 37 and a club option. Yeah, like no, there's no fit worries here at all. This makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I like this one, and look, like the Dalton pick as well. Going back to the Lakers here, I think that makes a ton of sense. I'm really, really excited to see what Dalton Knecht looks like with the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, it's just like all math, right? Like it's if they're going to play the math game, I mean, it's the opposite of what it was under Darvin Ham. It felt like a lot of the time. So, now that they have a shooter, that's real. Orlando getting another shooter. I'm really, really interested to see where this draft goes from here. Now Toronto is up. I was pretty clear throughout the process with you guys that listen to the show regularly. I had less of an idea on what Toronto was going to do than anybody else in the draft. I don't think I could have been more clear with the people publicly on that. I think that they're probably going to move 31. That's my guess, given that they have the whole night to move it, and there will be hopefully a bidding war for them. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see what that looks like.
Where's your board at, Sam? As we have a little bit of a break here, I think. Sure. Nope, Shams just tweeted. Nope, Shams just tweeted.
Shams just went. So it's Jacoby Walter at 19. I flip-flopped Jacoby Walter throughout the process, back and forth, 19 and 20. That was my read on the range he was going to end up in, either to the Cavs or Toronto. Just kind of that was like the one. Him and Yves Missi were the two guys that I'd like pretty consistently gotten for Toronto. Like, even though I didn't have a great sense of them, I had a sense that like it was one of those two spots for him. And I can't remember if I ended up with Missi there or not. It was, if he wasn't 19, he was 20. This is fine. I have him a little bit lower than this, but I am, he's in this tier at least. I will note that I think that Knecht was the last player in my tier 4 to be drafted. So now we're like firmly into the group of 16 to 16 to 28 here. And in my tier 4 group, of which I had 15 guys, all 15 of those players went within the first 17 picks. So that feels pretty good as well, as we're just running up the score here.
Yeah. So we've had 19 picks. I have 17 of the 19 have been off my board.
Love it. So Jacoby Walter, good measurements, 6'4" without shoes, 6'10" wingspan, long, lean frame. He made 34.1% of his threes this year. I think he is going to shoot it better than that in the NBA. I agree. Everything about his shooting percentages makes me think that it will be fine in terms of the shot falling and everything like that. Like, I think he will be a solid shooter at the end of the day in the NBA, especially off the catch. Made the 32nd most threes in the country off of screens this year, drilled those at 40%, just really knows how to run off of curls and get into open areas. Defense has a chance to be impactful. I didn't think he was a very good defender this year. I thought he struggled. His defensive tape, he was like a little too stiff, didn't have a ton of hip flexibility, but Toronto takes these guys that are a little bit stiff, right? Like Scotty was a little bit stiff, right? And they figured it out, right? Like, so maybe they just have a good sense of how to kind of work with those guys to unlock that. Look, they're probably going to, I don't know, I shouldn't say they're probably going to lose. Gary Trent is a free agent this year. They could lose him, certainly. You have a core built around Grady Dick, Emmanuel Quickley, Ochai Agbaji, certainly Jakob Poeltl is there still, but that's your group around Scotty Barnes. I think you just want as many shooters around Scotty Barnes as possible. So
he's older, get this. But Kelly Olynyk signed an extension to
as well
play into exactly what you're saying. I'm glad you mentioned that you think he's going to be a real floor spacer. I know you can look at the percentages and think maybe I buy the jumper. I buy the movement shooting. I think he comes in and definitely does that stuff. And then I agree with you that the defense wasn't as good as maybe I was hoping. It was a little bit of a mixed bag. But I will say too, we talk about intangibles and all I've heard about Jacoby Walter is he's an amazing kid, an absolutely amazing kid. And I actually wrote, like, from a broadcast, Scott Drew, his coach at Baylor, said 5-star recruit with a 0-star ego. And I just kind of love that quote about him, where these kids, they're getting talked about, they get these 5 stars, all of that stuff. And then he comes in and just works. So I like this for the Raptors here.
Scott's very good at those turns and phrases. Scott's very good at those. Okay, so 20 here is the Cavs. 21 is New Orleans. I mean, if I'm New Orleans and Yves Missi is sitting there, like, that's kind of interesting to me right now. I would be, really excited if I was them.
Where are we at with the Cavs? There's, do they need a big, the backup point guards? Wings?
I would be taking as many wing flyers if I was them as I could.
So the best wing on my board, we would be, I'm a Jaylon Tyson, Baylor Scheierman. You're probably a Johnny Furphy then?
No, I have Scheierman ahead. I have Scheierman is my next swing. I don't know if they'll do Scheierman, but I think I mocked Furphy here, if I remember correctly. This is a great tweet or a great comment in the section. You're allowed to draft spacing for your 4th-year franchise player.
This has to be from a Pistons fan. I guarantee you.
Hey, why is Scotty Barnes successful? Scotty Barnes has worked incredibly hard and is a great, basketball player, but also, one of these teams has accentuated him well. And actually, the Raptors didn't really accentuate him well, to be honest. Like, early in his career, Scotty overcame it and is great, but, they're starting to do that, and that's good. The Pistons are a little bit behind.
I would love somebody to put side by side just the 3-point percentages of the Raptors kind of roster around Scotty Barnes right now compared to the Pistons 3-point percentages around Cade Cunningham.
Sarr and Holland are just going to absolutely tank it. This is interesting.
Okay.
We've got Woj giving us a bomb here.
Uh-oh.
Jaylon Tyson.
Okay.
According to Woj, is going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay. This is a surprise for me. I'd kind of gotten some buzz he might fall out of the first. I ended up with him out of the first. I think I ended up with him at like 32 or so, 34 or something like that. I like this pick, though. Like I have Tyson in this tier of players. I have him as my, I think 27, 26. I don't know, something like that. He's well in this group. And I think that this makes sense. You know, another wing. I would have gone Scheierman over it, but yeah.
I actually have Tyson one spot above Scheierman. He's been a guy that I've really liked throughout the entire process. So, you know, when I ask you who your top wing, if that's where this team needed to go, Tyson would be the top wing on my board. He's not the top player on my board, but he would be the top wing. He's a guy I've liked through the process. So this makes a ton of sense to me. I like his just kind of build. I like that he had to play on ball in college. I wonder if he's able to scale down. We talked about this recently because I talked about him in my guys episode. He will not play the role he played this last year at California. I think we both agree to that. Maybe they can give him some on-ball reps if they need it, depending on what they do with the backcourt. But can he take all of that on-ball stuff, Sam, and can he apply it off the ball? Can the shooting hold true in those scenarios? And then can he be better defensively than what we saw when his offensive usage isn't as high?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by the shooting aspect of it with Tyson because we both know the numbers. We both know what the percentages say. He has made 36% from three this year, 40% from three last year. And I'm concerned that as he moves back, that like kind of the hitchy-ish jumper might not quite translate as far. He is a guy that I got told really went in and played well in workouts, like really, really went in and like attacked people and like was aggressive and physical and like really made an impression on teams in that process. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what this looks like for Cleveland because look, they have the spacing at the 1 and the 2 to account for it. But like my take on Tyson was always that I liked him more on the ball than kind of off the ball. And there's no on ball reps here for Cleveland. I think I don't love this. The more I talk my way through it, I'd much rather would have had like Scheierman or Furphy here, but with maybe they're planning on switching up their roster in the next year. If you just think he's the best player, you just think he's the best player, right?
So do you think he's going to shoot or?
This is a good point of comparison. Is Tyson a cheaper Karis LeVert? Maybe you just move Karis LeVert and you slot Jaylon Tyson into the Karis LeVert role. That's actually a good way to think of this, Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. The interesting thing, you brought up the numbers and then like he even shot 80% from the free throw line this year, but I think it was lower in the season before, maybe low 70s at Texas Tech. I do think you made a point with it coming back. I'd be interested to know what the numbers were on NBA range threes this last year because he brings it to like his forehead, he pauses, and then he finishes the shot. So I do have some worries about how it plays out. When he did get a chance to play off the ball, I did like some of the cutting and offensive rebounding because that's what he will be asked to do at the next level. So he didn't get to do it a ton, but the chances he did, I did like. He rebounded the ball pretty well also, averaged almost 7 rebounds. Yep. So he can do that. I would understand just like straight floor spacer, but maybe some of that secondary ball handling stuff that we see him do, which I guess you can maybe argue Scheierman can do a little bit, but not at Tyson's level, is a little more intriguing for Cleveland.
34.7 from NBA range this year for Jaylon Tyson.
Okay.
Okay. So Shams has 21 already too.
Yep.
21 is the thing that I referenced earlier, and they're going to take Yves Missi. I'd kind of been told that if he was there, they were taking him, but they didn't really expect him to get there. So that's intriguing. Missi fills their center role. You know, if I'm them, I still probably re-sign Jonas if I can.
Absolutely.
Because Yves Missi is nowhere near ready to play.
No.
But as a player who is like an extreme athlete who can really run and jump and can significantly put pressure on the basket. Yeah, I think this is a interesting pick for them. And I'd like to know more about what their plans are in terms of like the on-ball responsibilities. Are we going to see more point Zion? Are we going to see more moments where they're just kind of playing aggressively in that way, where he's running up and down the court, and they're going to let him like be the passer playmaker. Having Yves Missi as his ball screen partner is someone that like kind of says to me that I would like to have more of like a pick and pop guy, but he does have real athletic juice. I think he's better than Jackson Hayes. Frankly, I've seen this comparison a decent amount. He's, from what I know, like Yves Missi is like an extreme, and I'm not like, I say this without comment on Jackson Hayes. Yves Missi's like a super, super high character kid that's like going to work like crazy to like get whatever his ceiling is. So I would say that I buy this. He just has a ways to go in terms of defensive positioning and fundamentals and just his overall understanding of defensive principles. And it's going to take a year or so, but there's some time here. And to answer Big Mike's question, yes, he is an enormous amount behind Derek Lively. Derek Lively, like at Duke last year, was able to like run all sorts of different ball screen coverages. Yves Missi was like, kind of all over the map, it felt like to me, in ball screen coverages.
Do you think he can at least give a little bit of that production? If he got 15 minutes a night, can he come in and just give that energy, the lob threat? Is the drop coverage enough with his activity and his twitch to be... I mean, I fully agree. This is not the answer for the Pelicans at center this year, whether it's Valanciunas or something else. This can't be it. But I like it long-term for sure. And I just wonder if he can give you a little bit of that off the bench, even if it's 75% of what we saw from Derek Lively this season.
I think he could probably play like 10 to 15 minutes off the bench. It's just like, he can't be your guy.
Yeah.
Like he can't be like your number one. This is what we're running out at center. Like they need to find another option for that.
Sorry, Woj dropped some.
Woj just dropped the Kenny Atkinson deal. Looks like a 5-year deal for Cleveland. Shout out to Kenny Atkinson back in the game. Okay, so resetting the table. My best player available is Kyle Filipowski at 16. I kind of expected that he'd be the guy on the board here at this point. I'm a little bit higher on Kyle than what the rest of the league is. He and Isaiah Collier are my only top 20 players left at this point through 21 picks. We will see kind of where this goes.
Yeah. So I have Flip, I have DaRon Holmes, I have Collier, Tyler Smith, Kolek, Baylor Scheierman are kind of my next group of guys through these next groups. And here we are with the Suns, and who knows where Phoenix is going to go with this one.
I'm just kind of assuming they're trying to negotiate a trade back. I figured that this would like be a longer thing here, where like they would be kind of maneuvering through this and trying to figure out what exactly they wanted to do. Yeah, this doesn't surprise me, because the Suns at 22 should be trying to trade back and get extra picks.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Like they need to get more assets to be able to like kind of maneuver around this roster. If they don't trade this pick, I'll be like a little bit surprised, but we will see if they do or not.
So we go Suns, Bucks, and then we get to where are you at with the Knicks? Just to jump ahead a little bit, you think they end up making both of these after what we've seen play out in the last 24 hours?
Yes. I think they kind of need 2 cheap young guys like for the next 4 years with this roster. I think where I'm at is they make 2 of these 3 picks, because they have 38 tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
I don't know that they like 100% make 24 or 20, like make both 24 and 25, but I think they make 2 picks in this draft that they roster next year, at least, is what I would say.
Yep.
Yeah. And look, like they could even be like a team that trades up theoretically here for 22. Like if they really like somebody, they could try and move up. If I was Phoenix, what I'd be trying to do is like piecemeal this thing, get 38 for 20, get 38 and 24 from the Knicks for 22, get 29 and 32 for 24 from Utah, and like just keep adding picks, and then move the seconds that you get this year for future picks down the road overnight. So I don't know if that's what they'll actually do, but that's what I would be trying to do if I was the Phoenix Suns here. Dalton Knecht was unanimously ranked inside the top 10 on their draft board for all of their team scouts, according to Jovan Bua, for the Lakers, at least.
Well, they definitely would have been excited to have him at 17 then.
That is right. That is right. Yeah, so we only have like 9 picks left tonight, Bryce. This is crazy. I'm personally like enjoying this. No, that we only have 9 picks left right now.
I'm having a blast. I was a little interested to see if it would feel like it would drag on. There's only been a couple of these lulls where it's been like, okay, we've already talked about these picks. Do we go back to it? Do we wait? But overall, it's flowed pretty well and gone very fast. And so, no, I have a lot of fun with this. I did tell someone today, it's interesting, Sam, because we've talked about these guys so much already that I didn't have a whole lot to add in terms of my actual scouting report on them. It was just, okay, how much can we talk about their fit and how much we liked it and all of that as we have a pick. Oh, there we go. And a trade.
We have a pick and a trade?
Yep.
Okay. So the Suns have done something. Let's see what we've got here. If my internet ever loads. Shout out to Connor Andrews. Watching this in a hotel this year has been way better than last year watching it on the toilet at Barclays. So shout out to Connor. Connor's a great dude. Thank you for the super chat, man. This is great. Okay, so we have a deal. Phoenix is trading 22 to Denver, which takes DaRon Holmes. Okay. This is a fun conversation. So what is Phoenix going for here? I'm guessing they're going to get 28 here. So they take DaRon Holmes. I'm guessing this is like 28 in 2 seconds, maybe, or something like that. That's my guess. It's going to be 28 in 2 seconds to Phoenix for DaRon Holmes. Okay, that's a total guess.
Nuggets in 28, 56, and 2 future seconds.
Okay, so three seconds then.
3 seconds to move up. Yeah, 6 spots or whatever.
Okay, so you get the floor on DaRon Holmes. This is your guy. This is all you. But I will note at the top here, rumored for a long time that this was a promise. As far as I know, DaRon Holmes did not work out anywhere this cycle. So use with that information what you will.
Yeah. I mean, we started to see this more and more. I think the one that really stood out to me was whenever ESPN had him like at 60 and then all of a sudden mocked him into the first round. And then that just kind of set things ablaze that he had gotten a promise, whatever. Maybe it's Denver, maybe it wasn't. Denver moving up for him either means it was them or they jumped the team that actually promised him. At the end of the day, I like this for DaRon Holmes. I like this for Denver. But as you know, I'm a big DaRon Holmes guy. I think he's very skilled. I think he goes in there and he plays as the third guy with Jokic and Aaron Gordon and can kind of play in any combination of that trio. I think it makes for a really intriguing trio. He is a little bit older. We've seen Denver do this with older prospects. Didn't hit last year. They needed to hit this year with DaRon Holmes. And obviously, I think that it will. As I've talked about on many podcasts, this is a player I love.
Yep. Yeah, easy. Just very, very easy to me to make this move. This makes all the sense in the world. I'm interested to see now what Phoenix does. Like, do they make this pick at 28 or do they just decide to trade back again? I honestly think there's a reasonable chance they try to trade back again or like get a future pick from somebody that, they can maybe use as a trade chip. Like if there's somebody out there, I'd kind of heard rumors like maybe Oklahoma City or Atlanta, like might be fishing for a, later first round pick at one point. I wonder if they could, decide, hey, we really want 28. We'll give you X, Y, and Z. Oklahoma City certainly could do whatever, right? So, DaRon Holmes is a good player. Like, I think DaRon Holmes makes a lot of sense for Denver. I would imagine they think he can play the 4 and the 5.
Yeah.
I am skeptical on that. I think I'm probably a little bit more skeptical on that than you are, Bryce. Yeah. I think he can really, really, how do I want to, I think he's a great backup center for them for sure. I think there are worlds where you can probably play him at the 4 but it wouldn't be my primary goal. I worry about the, like, I think he's more stiff than you do athletically is the issue.
Yes. And 2 years ago, I would have agreed with you. I think he opened that stuff up a little bit more this year. And I think he showed some of this, especially offensively. I don't think DaRon Holmes plays the 4 for every team in every situation. I think off of Nikola Jokic, he can. And that's why I like this fit for him in Denver, and Denver getting him. So that's why I think it works, where those 3 guys can all, obviously we've seen Gordon and Jokic play together. I think he can play with Aaron Gordon. And then I don't think it's going to be the majority of the minutes, but I think they can get minutes with him playing off of Jokic, where he spaces in the corner enough. He can run those cuts like what Aaron Gordon does. I think defensively that would be interesting if you're asking. I don't think he can chase dudes around the way Aaron Gordon does defensively. That's where you'd have to figure things out a little bit. But I think in Denver, he can play the 4 off of, because it's Jokic and what he's able to do.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Like I'm, that makes sense to me. I think that I'll be interested to see more defensively. Like, will they have like the movement ability to like keep up with teams? But in the regular season, you know what, we've seen a lot. And you know what, like Mark Zukowski brings up Naz Reid. If he can be, the difference is that Naz, I think, can like really handle at a level to where he can play the 4 offensively. Same with Karl Towns. But, Jokic can do that at the 5, and you can kind of invert some things a little bit with the way that, Dayton does things, or the way that Minnesota does things. You can use Holmes as a screener for Jokic. You can get a lot more creative, I guess, than what I'm originally thinking as we kind of go through this.
Yep. No, I think Naz Reid is a really interesting comp for him. That would be awesome if he was able to round out his offensive skill set to do what Naz does.
Yeah, and like he can pass too. Like that's the thing that I don't think you mentioned that really, but like
I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I think I am comfortable giving him the dribble, pass, shoot offensive archetype. I'm cool with that because I've seen him attack closeouts and go by guys. Now, in fairness, it isn't the A10 and all of that. I believe in the shot maybe as much as anybody. Again, this is my guy, like of all of the people. But yes, the passing I think is real. I think he can make reads. He even started to add eye manipulation. And one other thing, this dude defensive rebounded the heck out of the ball over the last 20 games of the season. He really made a focus to do that. So I think he'll add that as well. And he's got some vertical pop also.
Definitely has some vertical pop, but yeah, my thing is like he needs to do like the big things better, just like being, a rebounder, aggressive, and like can really, play. But he'll be a good weak side rim protector next to Jokic. Actually,
I agree.
Yeah, I am like selling myself a little bit on him playing with Jokic, but we shall see what this looks like.
If he can do that next to Jokic defensively, it works. My worry would be, if I had one worry about this working with him next to Jokic, is if the other 4 dudes cause him to have to chase somebody around on the perimeter. I think DaRon is a little bit more mobile than you do, but he's not Aaron Gordon mobile in terms of really sitting down and guarding in that way. But if he can just be, the weak side rim protector, I think he'd be awesome at that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. And I would imagine this spells the end of Zeke Naji probably in Denver. I would think that would make sense to me at least. Okay, so we're up at 23 now, the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm curious to see if something happens here that I've been kind of waiting to see if it will, but maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Best players available on my board, still Kyle Filipowski and Isaiah Collier, Tyler Kolek, Baylor Scheierman, and then we get down into like the Tyler Smith, Johnny Furphy area. We don't have a ton of like first rounders left for me, to be honest, at this point. Like nobody has made like a crazy pick yet.
Nope. That's where our boards, our best available or whatever, are very similar right now. So I'm interested to see, could this be a Filipowski spot with Milwaukee?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, like I'd heard like Ware at times. We'll talk about this. I want to see what the pick is first, before we go there. But no, like it's an interesting situation where typically by now I feel like somebody has taken somebody that I do not have as a first round grade. And the fact that we are in, we're in like 23 right now and nobody that they've taken, like I don't have in my top 30. This is a responsible draft in my opinion from NBA teams. I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, I have. So how many picks? We've had 22 actual picks and 26 is the bottom player that's been selected on my board. So 22 of the 26 is, yeah,
28 for me. So all 22 picks in the top 28. All right, where are we at here?
I was gonna say, I feel like we talked about DaRon Holmes for a very long time, and I was kind of feeling bad about it, and then we're not getting any other news.
We need Shams, we need Woj, we need the people to come through. We need the people to come through. Where are we at? Let's go. Come on, Shams. Come on, Woj. Yeah, anything else on Denver? I mean, like, I'm interested to see what they do with KCP is my big thing now.
So yeah, that will play out very interesting. If he doesn't stay, is Christian Braun ready? Where is the depth then on the roster after that? Are any of the dudes they drafted last year going to be able to step up? Julian Strawther, I feel like, is a guy we talked a lot about. What was it? Summer League and preseason, or that we, so, I mean, if all three of those missed, that's kind of tough for them. We've talked about how we like the idea, but the execution of it wasn't good. Did we finally get someone?
We have it. So this is what I mocked in the mock draft, and people gave me some questions about this. So
interesting.
Yeah. So AJ Johnson, number 23. This has been out there for a little while. I thought for a while it was going to be 33, and then had a few people kind of tell me it's 23 earlier. So AJ Johnson, number 23 overall to the Milwaukee Bucks. This is my zone, I guess, where I get to discuss AJ. So AJ is this athletic guy at 6'4.5" who can really create his own shot in theory. Has very smooth, fluid footwork. I think he will shoot it at some point. There's no reason to think that he won't. His issue right now is he is painfully thin. He is incredibly thin. He's about he's under 170 pounds at 6'4.5". I really like what he is capable of athletically on defense. I think his energy is super high level. All of the intel on him as a kid is like very good. People over here in Australia really enjoyed dealing with him. And he did a workout in Milwaukee before the combine, and, apparently it went well.
Now, I remember talking about AJ Johnson, what was it, early on, and I talked to you about how I wasn't sure exactly how I felt about him, but he did just have a different level of twitch than some of the other guys that were on the floor. Like, he just had this juice to him. I didn't think a lot from the combine scrimmage, but I thought he played well in the combine scrimmages, and I came away pretty positive with some of that. Even I think his passing showed out pretty good there. This is interesting to me with Milwaukee, because how do you feel about the process of this? I don't hate AJ Johnson in the first round, but doesn't Milwaukee, what does it say something about how they feel about Marshawn or Andre Jackson? Like,
I think it's just more they liked the player and felt like it's a high upside swing. Yeah, like to me, it's just, Doc does not love playing rookies. Like, whoever they drafted, this guy was never going to play. Like, we need to just be clear about that. They were never in a million years going to take a player that Doc Rivers was going to play at 23. Now, could they have taken a better player? Could they have waited until 33? So the teams that AJ met with, I guess, were Denver and Minnesota beforehand. I think there were a couple others. I would say that, yeah, I guess that what I would say is they probably felt like they couldn't wait because of those things. They probably felt like they couldn't wait to get him at 33 in case somebody like Minnesota, who is still there, by the way, like I thought Minnesota might try and move up. Minnesota did move up already, I guess, but they still have 27, right? Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
the move for Dillingham didn't involve 27. It was just the future picks.
Right. So yeah, look, I had AJ. I'm a little bit higher on AJ than like what other people are. I have AJ at 32. I think it's like a pure upside swing. He is athletically like incredibly smooth and has like a real chance. It's 2 to 3 years away. And if you're Milwaukee, like, do I think it's like this incredible idea? I don't know, not necessarily, but I understand it at least to an extent.
Okay. I mean, I guess my thing is Baylor Scheierman's sitting right there, and can that come in and help you where this team is in win now? I understand the upside swing, but as much as I love AJ, even if it does hit, it's a couple years away. So I was just curious on the process. So, and for like, I have him at 37, so I'm a tad lower, but this isn't crazy range in general. And then we have a trade. We have a trade also.
Yeah. The Knicks are moving 24 to the Wizards for Kyshawn George. Okay. Yeah. Kyshawn is a guy that I'm a little bit lower on. I actually had a lower grade on Kyshawn than I did AJ Johnson. Why do you ask? Because if you look at Kyshawn George's numbers in second division France last year, when he was AJ Johnson's age, they were actually quite similar to AJ's numbers in Australia this year. So this is Woj. Woj is saying Kyshawn George at number 24 to the Wizards. I'm interested if this is a trade up in some way, or if their Knicks are just like moving this out for a future first.
They got
I think it would
51. They got 51
to move back two spots, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So honestly, they might still take the same guys that were on their board, I would imagine. I can't imagine them taking Kyshawn George.
Yeah.
So they basically get 51 for free. So Kyshawn George, what are you a fan of with Kyshawn George? Let's ask that.
I like his size. That's one thing that stood out to me. And then I do think he is skilled. So I think he is able to really shoot it. I like his passing. He's able to put it on the deck a little bit with the positional size. And so that's what I like. I think he moves very fluidly, really shot it well. He was 41% from three on 4 attempts this year. Defensively, I don't know. The overall athleticism is a concern. You mentioned him playing overseas last year. So he is going to be, he's already 20 years old, even though he was just a freshman at Miami this last year. So what I'm betting on is this intersection of positional size with the skill level, specifically the shooting.
Turns 21 in December.
Yeah.
He is definitely very old for a freshman. I ended up with Kyshawn George at number 35 on my board. It looks like 6'7", 6'10" wingspan, can shoot it. That's the skill set here. Has some real passing attributes. I just worry if he's actually going to be able to do anything with it, because he's just not a rim pressure guy in any way, shape, or form right now. Maybe getting to like a better spaced court in the NBA really helps him. I think that's plausible. The thing that worried me with Kyshawn is, and this is a fine pick, by the way. Like, I don't hate this pick for Washington. Again, it fits totally into there. We're taking home run swings. We're throwing as many home run, we're taking as many home run swings as we can. We're throwing as many darts at the bullseye as we can and trying to make it work. Guy that averaged like under 3 points per game in second division France last year. Anybody that has watched second division French league basketball will tell you that is nowhere near the highest level professional league. I would argue, honestly, it's probably a worse level than high major college, to be honest, even for a professional league. And then this year averaged like 8, 3, and 3. And or whatever the numbers were, 9, 3, and 3. I'll pull up the numbers while we're talking. But and then when they gave him the ball late in the year, they had him like try and like be the guy who's, you know, kind of creating for them later in the year. They were like horrendous late in the year. Like they were really, really bad.
Yeah.
They lost like their last 10 games of the year. So I don't really love I don't love Kyshawn George as a player, but he's a late growth spurt guy who played on the ball when he was younger and can really shoot. And if you really buy the shooting, I completely understand this pick, and I do think he will shoot. I wonder if he can do anything else other than shoot is kind of my question.
Yeah, no, I mean, so we talked about, I love what the Wizards had done up to this point with Sarr, and then they got Bub Carrington. And I like them replenishing the wing room after making the Avdija trade. It's just, for me, I actually have Scheierman higher. I have Furphy higher. Like, those guys would have made more sense to me. That's who I would have taken if I was going to draft a wing, even if I'm a little higher on Kyshawn George than you are. I think he was 32 on my board, but I can understand betting on this, like I said, intersection of just positional size and the skill level, specifically if he can really shoot it.
Yep. It's a reasonable bet, I think. I'm lower, but it's a reasonable bet at the end of the day. Okay. We've got number 25 and 26 from the Knicks. I honestly wonder if they like continue to look at moves. The other thing that this Knicks move does is it, by going from 24 to 26, it reduces the cap hit on the first, or on the draft pick that they're bringing in. I have no idea by how much, but for a team where like they're going to be up against the first apron, probably like that could matter on some level. Very, very much could matter. So that does at least like kind of stand out to me in some way.
Just looking at the board, we're at Filipowski, Collier, Kolek, Scheierman, Furphy, Ryan Dunn. So for the Knicks, some of the names we've talked about are Tyler Kolek. We've talked about Baylor Scheierman. I actually love that for the Knicks. Ryan Dunn is popularly, mocked to them. So a lot of the names that we've talked about for the Knicks are there for them with both of these picks. Do they look for potentially a big guy? Yeah. Okay. So Woj just confirming the trade stuff. Do they look for a big guy with one of these two because of what we talked about earlier with Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitch Robinson, and what you just mentioned there with them being hard capped at the first apron, depending on the mechanism of the trade?
So they have potential bigs here, right? They have Jericho Sims. They have Precious Achiuwa's restricted free agency rights if they want to use those. Although if he gets more than, gets more than expected, that could be an issue. In talks. So the Knicks are in talks on moving number 26 as well. So again, like another trade down per Woj. That is a thing. Okay. So they are going to select the 25. Woj believes if they're selecting a 25, I wonder if it's Kolek.
Yeah.
That's been a guy that, I've kind of heard that they like all year, but we'll see if that's true. I'm intrigued to learn more about their plan here, because this is a team that has been very much in the news. They made a Mikal Bridges deal yesterday that we talked about live and kind of talked through as that was happening. And then today they signed OG Anunoby, right? They made a move that, locked in their future on the wings with Anunoby and Bridges. I mean, that's two of the best possible outcomes here on the wings. And by the way, if you're still here, hit the subscribe button on this channel. Hit the like button on this video. It really helps support the show. If you're listening after the fact, we're going to absolutely post this immediately after the show ends. Just come on, help us out. Hit that like button. Leave a 5-star review. Leave a rating. Whatever you can. Help us. Woj is now reporting they're going to use both 25 and 26 now. Here we go. We're back. Woj, we love it. This makes sense to me to use both because, again, they need cheaper guys. They need cheaper guys at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I'm interested to see where they go with these. I think Kolek makes sense. Scheierman makes sense. Dunn makes sense. Filipowski, I think, would give them a different dynamic at the big man position, right? They don't have any floor spacers there. So adding him into the fold with one of these picks, and I think it'd be really good value at this point based on where he's at on my board. I guess in the same vein, Tyler Smith could give them some floor spacing, even though I don't know that Tibbs would put him on the floor because of the defensive side. I guess you can make the same argument with Filipowski. So for some people, but yeah.
Let's see here. They're going to do something, I would hope, right? Like that'd be good. Let's hope the Knicks like don't time out, right? Maybe they just gave the Knicks 16 minutes. Maybe that's the plan.
Here's
what, hey, use both the time banks.
Here's what's hard not watching this at all live is I lose track of time. So I have no idea. Like you don't have the counter to know. And so sometimes it feels like it's been forever, depending on how the conversation has gone around the previous pick. Sometimes it goes really fast, but yeah, you could tell me there was still 6 minutes on the clock and I would believe you. Like I have no understanding of the timer not watching the broadcast.
No idea. Absolutely no idea. Like couldn't even begin to guess how much time is left. Let's see. Woj is killing us. We need Woj to come through. We need Shams to come through. Let's go. How good do you think the Knicks actually are, by the way, while we're talking here?
So I woke up this morning and we talked about this, right? And I appreciate everybody that tweeted at us about our ability to navigate that last night as the trade broke live during the middle of a mock draft. And I said when we got off, Sam, that I wanted to sleep on it. I still think it's an overpay. It's still a lot to give up. I kind of love the Knicks roster, like just in a vacuum of adding Mikal Bridges and going all in on this. And if I believe it all and stuff that I've preached as a coach in terms of chemistry and locker room and stuff like that, obviously it seems like they should have those things. I like it more if they could keep both bigs. I like it more if they'd be willing to play small at times with all of those guys. I'm love and fascinated to see who they end up starting, but I like that roster. I think it's a really talented roster outside of what they've had to give up to put it together.
All right, we've got one of the Knicks picks now. From Woj, Pacome Dadiet. Oh, Woj, killing me, man. Absolutely killing me. I had Dadiet at 26, not at 25. Unbelievable.
Interesting.
Just maybe they're targeting Dadiet at 26. Who knows? Maybe it's not at 25. Dadiet is an interesting player. I have him at 34 on my board. I really like the scoring ability and the shooting ability. He is another one of these like later bloomers coming out of France. Great physical tools, 6'7" 3/4 with a 6'9" wingspan, very physical, like has a powerful frame already at 210 pounds for a 6'8" kid. Really shoots the ball well and can really score off the ball at a high level. 35% of his threes this year, including Euro Cup competition while playing for Ulm over in Germany. I think that Ulm did a really good job of kind of getting the ball on the move. They used like these pitch back and like dribble handoff plays. They'd use ball screens into rescreens. And then he was able to get downhill. It's almost like kind of watching. He's not this good. So like, don't take this for what it is. Cause this guy went second overall, but like, it's kind of like watching like a nascent, like Michael Beasley kind of, just in terms of like powerful frame, real touch as a scorer. Again, like nowhere near as good as Beasley. Beasley, I think people forget like how incredible that guy was at Kansas State.
He was awesome.
Truly might be like the best college basketball player I've seen in like 2 decades, but I digress. That's the kind of skill set here. Why does he go 26 instead of the lottery, given that skill set? Doesn't have a ton of like bounce or explosiveness, doesn't have great lateral speed. I don't love the footwork all the time. And I think that the defense is a real work in progress. Like it's going to take some time, but for what he is as an 18-year-old that is still clearly developing, it's not a surprise at all that he would end up going in the first round here.
Yeah, this is just interesting to me. This wasn't the process that I thought the Knicks were going to go with, but I don't hate it considering the type of depth that they've already built out that we just talked about. You brought up all of the offensive stuff. I agree. I think versatile, that intersection, again, I've said it a couple times now, but of size and skill, higher upside based on his age and how raw his game is. I think the shot looks good. I really would buy that. True off the ball player, good instincts with some of those things. I can see where people get excited about it. I think it just has to really come together. And then defensively, the best way I can say it, to me, it was activity without a plan. It's not an overly huge negative, but I don't know if it was a lack of awareness just because he's young. I thought he was always engaged in a way, but didn't actually know what he was really trying to do, which is something I think you can coach up.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a crazy take. Yeah, I'm intrigued by this pick. I think, that I would imagine he comes over is my guess, just based on the Knicks needing like cheaper roster spots. I guess they could stash him in theory if he'd be willing to do that, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of know his preference, but like, I don't know, like if he's going to like demand it already. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see who the Knicks go next. Like Kolek is a guy that I've been told all year. Scheierman's a guy that I've been told recently. Dunn, is another name that people have connected there. So anyone else stand out to you for the Knicks here with the second pick?
No, those are the names. Like I said, I've really bought into the Scheierman one. I think he makes a lot of sense. And again, if they're trying to really build out that wing for, like, why not just add another one to that group to have as many as you can? So I like the idea there. You just went kind of the upside young swing. I wouldn't hate to see them with the second pick here, get somebody who you think may be able to contribute just a little bit, even if it's just in the regular season, then they get squeezed out come playoff time. Or, you mentioned Kolek. That makes plenty of sense to me for the, as a backup point guard. How many picks do we have left? We're down to what, 6?
5 left. We have 5 left here.
Oh yeah. 20. Yeah. So I was just kind of counting up Flip, Collier, Tyler Smith. Like we're getting to where, we've had enough guys outside of my top 30 where there's going to be some guys inside my top 30 that definitely are going to carry over to tomorrow, which is going to make the top of the second round really interesting in and of itself.
Yeah, it is. The top of the second round is going to be really interesting, as are the kind of deals that happen overnight.
Yeah.
Here, there will be deals when they get announced, like who knows, but there will certainly be deals. So yeah, we will see what that looks like. Next, who are the Knicks taking here? Come on, let's go. We need a pick here from the Knicks.
Woj just tweeted they are trading number 26.
No, they aren't. Shut the fuck up.
I swear, to the Thunder.
Okay, so I don't know this, but I had a couple of people connect John Mabo to the Thunder for me.
Okay.
Throughout the process. I'm not saying that this is done. Like, I don't know who it is. Like, I truly don't know who it is. But I'm just saying, like, the last couple of days, I had someone, I had a couple people say Mabo here if the Thunder got back in. So that's intriguing to me.
That would be interesting. He fits the pass archetype, doesn't fit the shooting archetype for them.
Oh boy, it's another one of the Bryce Simon guys. Okay. From Shams, Dillon Jones at 26. I think this is a terrible pick. This is the first one that I will just call out and say this is a bad pick. But here we go. Let's talk about Dillon Jones. This is your guy. For reference for the people, I have Dillon Jones ranked 65 on my board. So this is my first, this is rough for me. You go on ahead and give the take here.
Yeah, listen, as much as Dillon Jones is one of my guys, this is higher than I would have him as well. This is interesting for Oklahoma City. If Dillon Jones is going to fit in the NBA, I think he has to go somewhere where there's creativity. I wonder if this works for him offensively, where, again, we talk all the time about dribble, pass, shoot. Dillon Jones can do two of those things really well. Now, he has to be able to knock down shots. I think he's probably better defensively than what he ever showed at Weber State, because at the end of the day, like, he was just giving so much offensive. And here's an interesting part of this. What is the thing that the Thunder were the worst at on the defensive end? Rebounding. Dillon Jones, at least in college, was a big time defensive rebounder. So maybe they think as a wing, he can come in and provide value. Listen, I don't think it all translates either, because he doesn't have a lot of vertical pop. I'm trying to make the pitch. Like, Sam Presti took him in the first round, not me. So I'm trying to make the pitch.
I think the world of Sam Presti. I think the world of the scouting staff. I think they do a great job. This is the first draft they've had in a while where I'm like, okay, let's see what this looks like. Okay, so why don't I like Dillon Jones? Let's kind of talk about that. Why am I lower on Dillon Jones? For what it's worth, in the mock, I ended up jumping him into the top 40 because I'd kind of been told that there were a couple of teams that were pretty interested in this, 25 to 40 area, let's call it. I think Dillon is great length, great instincts for the ball. I like him best as a passer and playmaker.
Yep.
Obviously created a lot of shots at the rim. I think that Big Sky League is like dreadful defensively. Yeah. I think it's like truly egregiously bad. Reads defenders well out of ball screens, keeps his dribble alive to find open shots, does a great job decelerating and using his strength. 235 pounds, physical, loves to throw jump passes to create angles with his length, good touch on lobs, awesome passing out of the post. Weber did a lot of like mismatch hunting with him where they try and like get him onto guards and bigs, right? That's an intriguing way to think about things. I understand why the Knicks traded this deal now. Give me a second after I'm done with the scout. My big question is just all scalability. Like, is he going to be able to scale to the NBA or not? Never has really made jump shots. 32% on 300 three-point attempts. I know that he took a lot of those off the dribble, and a lot of those were tough where he was at the top of the scouting report, but like none of those numbers just have never shown improvement. 31.9% of his catch and shoot threes, 23.8% of his pull up threes, 36% of his floaters. I just worry that like he doesn't have that natural touch kind of that you need. Yeah, just this isn't a pick for me. It's, I wish him the best. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So they gave up 5 second-round picks to do this. So if you're the Knicks and you've traded all these firsts, I understand why you moved 26 for 5 seconds. A couple people have asked, why did they feel the need to move up? Again, I had Jones in the top 40 on the mock, largely because I had been told there were a few teams in the 30s that liked him, and that I didn't want to look like a moron having him at 50 or 52 or whatever it is. Right. So he's just very polarizing. It's not that everybody across the league thinks he's bad. Like, for instance, like Super Mrs. David brings up, if a player is in the consensus bottom 40, why do this? It's because if you're thinking of a consensus board in some way, the guys who will get lost in that are the polarizing guys. Dillon Jones is a very polarizing player in this respect. He is somebody that if you really buy the feel and you think he can shoot it at some point, you probably love the rebounding. You love the passing ability. That's where this gets into. That's where I think, you can make the case for it. Personally, it's just not for me. I'm on the lower side of Dillon Jones. Bryce, I think, is on probably the slightly higher side.
Yeah, right? I wouldn't say I'm like, I never came in and mocked him in the first round when we were doing mock drafts. So I wouldn't say I'm crazy high.
I don't know if that's true for what it's worth, but
Recently? Did I need to add a comma recently before the period?
Comma recently works.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
I think other people were higher, but I would say slightly higher is a good way to put it. I still just think it's kind of funny that their 2 picks are guys that played a lot on the ball with shooting questions.
Yep. So Minnesota here is going to go Terrence Shannon. That's another one that I had mocked. I'd kind of been told that if it wasn't Chicago, that Minnesota did indeed like Terrence Shannon quite a bit. So Terrence Shannon is going to go 27. I had Terrence Shannon on my board at, let's see what we've got here, Bryce. I would say 31 maybe. Okay. 39 actually, it looks like I ended up with Terrence Shannon. I don't love the feel is my issue.
Sure.
Love the production, obviously incredibly productive player, incredibly athletic player who just like drives into the paint at will, gets to the basket, scores like at a serious level. Because of that, obviously improved the shot like in a really substantial way over the course of his career. But to me, it's always been the pull-up stuff as opposed to the catch and shoot consistency. Athletic guy that I think like really works within this scheme. They needed another wing. I think that's like another reason to do this at the end of the day. Certainly if Nickeil Alexander-Walker leaves, they need like another athletic perimeter player. This pick makes a lot of sense to me, and that's why I ended up mocking it. So, yeah.
I don't want to not give Terrence Shannon his due. You talked about it. I think real athletic, older player makes sense for Minnesota at a wing, but we have 28 as well, which is the Suns pick.
Is it staying with the Suns?
So Shams, all he has said so far is Phoenix is selecting Ryan Dunn at 28. There's no other context there.
They definitely like Dunn. I had Dunn at 29 to Phoenix because I had them doing a different trade, but they definitely liked Ryan Dunn. That was a whole thing throughout the process. So he goes 28. He will play for them next year. They need athletic defenders. Sure. So he's definitely going to play for them next year.
Yeah, I've said I like the idea of this defensively with what he does. Obviously, I don't love his context offensively around a bunch of ISO heavy offense. I'd rather one that really gets out and runs in transition and where he can be, but maybe he figures out the nuance of cutting off of these guys. But yeah, I mean, adding some defense right there. And I had him right around this range actually on my board. So that makes sense. I'm going to have some guys that, we have 2 picks left and Utah and Boston.
Flipping Kolek still there.
And Collier
still there. If this is Utah, I'm going to guess, did I have Flip in the mock here? I'm going to guess Flip if this is still Utah. Let me take a look at the mock. Continue to talk about Ryan Dunn. What makes Ryan Dunn so special on defense, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, what I love is that he can do. So we've talked about like Steph Castle being a solid defender, and then I talked about Ron Holland being a disruptive defender. I think Ryan Dunn does both. He is everywhere: energy, effort, defensive playmaking. There's a couple of clips where he like hard hedges almost to like, I think he touches the logo and then recovers all the way to the rim and blocks the shot. It's actually against Wisconsin. So he does all like the flashy box score stuff, but then he's also very solid with his recovery. And you watch a game and it's Dunn does this. Ryan Dunn just did that. He had his imprint all over this possession. Just a truly impactful defender that combines effort plus awareness. And so I love what he does. I think he's probably the best overall defender in the class if you take away the bigs and the value of a big that can really cover ground. And he's got to figure out the offense. What can he do? Is he able to shoot at any sort of level, or can he just be a crazy cutter, transition, offensive rebound player?
Yeah, it's all about the offense. He's one of the best defensive playmakers I've ever evaluated. Just point blank. He can guard anybody on the court, including like all but the biggest centers. He is incredible in help situations. His anticipation is unbelievable. His feel for the game on that end, he just understands like how to wreak havoc across the board. Kadar brings up, is Ryan Dunn's best case Andre Robertson? It's probably something like that. Yeah. But here's the thing. They'd be fine with that. They have enough scoring. Like, they have enough of these dudes. It's a good fit with Phoenix to me. Like, you can just have Ryan Dunn be the guy who guards the opposing team's best player. You take so much pressure. Do you know how much pressure Kevin Durant had to guard last season?
Yeah.
It was so hard on him. And I'm not saying that like Ryan Dunn's going to come in and be some like all defense guy from day one, but they just need somebody who can come in and really be effective on that end of the court.
Yeah.
So we have another pick. We've got Isaiah Collier at 29 with the Utah Jazz, which is a good pick to me, from Woj. Shout out to Woj.
Yeah.
So this is the fall for Collier.
Yeah.
I would have probably ended up with him in the 20s if I hadn't gotten told ahead of time that Washington may have had some interest. But I have Collier at 19 on my board. I think he's a good player. Like, I'll just say, like, I think Isaiah Collier is a really good player. Rim pressure, constant rim pressure. By the way, I would anticipate 30 probably is Scheierman now, from a shooting perspective. Yeah, I kind of forgot Collier was there when I said it was Filipowski, but yeah, I'm gonna guess here that it's probably Scheierman at 30. With Collier, why do you think he slipped in the draft?
I would guess, I know one of my early takes with him is, why do you think he pressures the rim? There was a little bit too much bully ball when he did get there, and that he had and concerns of, is he able to play that way when he gets to the NBA? Then there's the floor spacing concerns and the defensive concerns. So I love the idea of rim pressure, but if you think that's all he does, then what is the value around that? And is he going to be able to do that rim pressure and take that into the NBA? So I did not expect this type of fall from Collier. I didn't see lottery pick for Collier. I thought he was going to be one of those guys in the 15 to 20. Maybe he falls into the early 20s and we talk about great value there. So yeah, I mean, that Utah backcourt is interesting. You know, you already have Kyshawn George there, but yeah, I think for Utah, like, to me, this is really good value because I had Collier 18 on my board.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a smart pick. Look, I had Furphy like in the 20, like deep 20s. I had him in like 26, so it's not like wildly surprising to me that he's on the board. Flip. Look, I'm not wildly surprised Flip is on the board either. Flip is also quite polarizing for people. Yeah, Flip is also quite polarizing for people, is what I will say. Look, and like, I guess that the Celtics could take Furphy here. Like, that's very much in play. That wouldn't blow my mind at all. I can't imagine that they thought he would be there, to be honest. So yeah, look, what we're learning here is, I would imagine that, again, the Raptors are going to have like a pretty real shot here to end up trading this pick for like real value at 31, just given who's on the board. Like Filipowski and Furphy and Tyler Smith, I'm not super surprised. I think there's not as much enthusiasm privately, like on the team side, for Tyler Smith as there seemed to be publicly. But it looks like, you know, assuming that one of Scheierman or Furphy goes here, 26 of my top 30 guys will have been taken. Kolek is still on the board too. I forgot about that, actually. Yeah, I forgot about Kolek. I wonder if they could look at him. Probably not, though, with Pritchard already. So Kolek falling to the second's a little bit rough as well.
Yeah, no, that's what I would be at, whatever, out of 32. 20. If one of these guys, it would be 26 of 32 for me. Yeah. Flip, Tyler Smith, Kolek, Scheierman, Furphy. Those would be the big names that if I was a team, and I would be excited about getting those guys at the top of the second.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I do wonder if maybe there's like a bit of a bidding war right now, and this is why it's going to take Boston a minute to make this pick. These are all like pretty good players. They're
Yeah.
not like, incredible players necessarily, but they're all pretty good. So the guys that will be, like Filipowski could, very easily be very high on someone's board. Like if I was
Utah still has 32, right? So you were talking about Utah with Filipowski. He could still end up in Utah with that one.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I don't know what they're going to do now. Yeah. Look, I mocked Filipowski to Utah. That's the only reason I said that. Like, I'm not saying that.
Sure. Yeah.
That's like a whole thing, but, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I guess I would say that Flip is still there. I don't know that they'll take him, but if I was Boston, like I'd definitely take Flip. He makes a ton of sense for them.
Yeah.
Like that would be all of my top 20 off the board. I think Kolek's at 21 for me. Kolek and Scheierman 21, 22. I mean, if I was Boston, if Portland really liked somebody here, I would probably try to do 34 and 40 for 30 here. Like if Portland was willing to do that, that's what I would do. Because if I'm Boston, I feel like I need a bunch of young guys to kind of come in and, be the next little group. I think that kind of tracks, right?
Yeah. The only thing I would say is I kind of like this group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. And at 34, I guess I'm guaranteeing I get one of them still. I think I would just take my pick between Flip and Scheierman at the end of the day, I think.
But you have Furphy too, though.
That's true. But I guess if I go back to 34, all three of those guys could be gone. And then now I also think Scheierman's more ready right now than Furphy. And so I'm just thinking, Flip is interesting, right? Because Horford's getting older. You continue to get a guy that can space the floor as a big. That tracks decently for me if I'm Boston.
Yeah. So it is Scheierman, it looks like. Okay. Woj has it as Scheierman, which is the name that I'd kind of gotten if he was to fall there throughout the process. But I figured with Flip and Furphy, it might have like at least created a few different questions. Let's go with at least. I mean, so this is where we're at. Scheierman to Boston. I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world. Like, I mean, he's elite shooter, elite off of movement. They don't really run like crazy actions. You know what I mean? Like they're not out here. They more just have like a 5-out scheme where their guys like drive and attack, right? Scheierman was like amazing knocking down threes off of, all sorts of like pin downs and flares and all those kind of actions. But he can really pass. He's a high level decision maker. I think he's a better defender than what he gets credit for. But yeah, to me, this is a pick that makes all the sense in the world. And I'm not surprised that they're keeping their pick, even just because Scheierman is on the board here.
Yep. Nope. That makes sense. What do we got?
Okay. So day one's done. We've got Kyle Filipowski left. He's the only player in my top 20 left.
Same.
Tyler Kolek, Tyler Smith.
Yep.
Johnny Furphy, AJ Mitchell are my only players in the top 30 left. So that's not surprising. I feel like 5. Typically there's like 5 guys left, especially when only one of them is, this feels like a pretty normal cycle in that regard. Other guys worth noting, Jamal Shed, he's a guy that I'm just very high on. But Cam Christie did not get picked tonight. Nikola Jurisic, but I'm not super surprised about that. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how tomorrow goes for some of these guys like Filipowski, Tyler Kolek, Johnny Furphy. I would guess that Furphy is probably the most popular name left.
Sure. I could see that. He's not the top.
Yeah. I would guess Furphy is that it. That's it.
I ended up with 29 in my top 38. I only had one guy outside of my top 38. So
yeah, that'd be Dillon Jones.
Yep.
Shout out to Dillon Jones. I had one guy outside of my top 39. So that makes sense to me. Like I had a big group of players, from I think I ended up with like 27 first round grades. So there were always going to be guys in that next group in the 30s that I thought had a real shot at being selected later. Yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting spot now for all of these teams at 31. Now they get overnight to kind of retool things. And kind of figure things out from there. So we've got on the clock tomorrow, Toronto currently at 31, Utah at 32. 33 is who is 33, Bryce? Why can't I think of it off the top of my head?
Hold on, I have it right here. 33 is Milwaukee, 34 Portland, 35 San Antonio, and then Indiana at 36 gets to make their first pick of the draft.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I would guess that we see early on we'll probably get Flip early. We'll definitely get Furphy early. Furphy would be my guess for 31 right now. I will have him mocked at 31 tomorrow. I would guess that if it's Toronto, that makes sense. If it's not Toronto, that makes sense to me. 32, I will probably have Flip. 33, I will probably have I'm not going to say who I'll probably have because that'll get me yelled at. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens now. I would bet you that almost all of these picks are now available to be traded, basically.
Yeah.
I would venture that all of these picks are available to be traded. Any takeaways here from the night now that we're here?
So I was kind of looking through just team drafts. I will stick with the Wizards. I've said it multiple times already. I love Sarr and Bub Carrington, what they got there. I love the Devin Carter to Sacramento pick. The Thunder draft is a little bit puzzling to me. Who else do I like what they did? I think Rob Dillingham to the Wolves isn't something we had talked about, but as we said, whenever the pick actually happened, I think for him, that makes a lot of sense with him, being able to insulate him defensively. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at, right? The Knicks, here's what I'll say about the Knicks. This was the complete opposite of what I thought the Knicks were going to do. With essentially they had two picks and they didn't take any sort of ready-made player. They took Pacome Dadiet and then traded out for second-round picks either this year or in the future. So that was the complete opposite of what I had been mocking to the Knicks.
The Knicks got 6 extra second-round picks tonight. They did very well after trading away so many picks yesterday. They just needed picks to be able to kind of maneuver around in the offseason and, at the deadline next year and things like that. Selections that I really liked, Sarr at 2, I think that makes sense. Reed Sheppard at 3. Cody Williams might be my favorite pick of the night.
Sure.
10, honestly. I like Devin Carter at Sacramento. I like Bub Carrington going to Washington. I like Knecht going to the Lakers. That's one that really makes sense to me. That makes just a world of sense to me. Da Silva at 18, Jacoby Walter at 19. After that, it gets a little bit, Terrence Shannon at 27, I think makes sense. And then Collier and Scheierman makes sense. Those would probably be my favorites of the evening, I would say.
Yeah. No, that's what it's. I think Carter was one of my favorites. Scheierman to the Celtics. I like that one. And because I'm higher, I like the Jaylon Tyson to the Cavs one also.
Yeah, you like Jaylon a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, I do.
Look, this was always going to be a weird draft in terms of comparing players to consensus boards and things like that. There was never going to be a consensus in this class because this class is just a little bit weaker than the normal class. I'm very intrigued to see what happens tomorrow. I'm very intrigued to see how many trades we get overnight. And yeah, I'm excited to see what this thing looks like moving forward. Bryce, we're back tomorrow in what, like 17 hours or so?
I haven't looked. I think it's 3. Is it 4 Eastern start? 3. I don't know what time this is. I have to always
4 Eastern start. So it's a 6 a.m. start my time, which I am excited about at the end of the day. Let me tell you, it's not going to be a day without caffeine for me or my ADHD medication. That is for sure. In terms of like trades that occurred, anything stand out to you? Like Rob Dillingham was a deal. Bub Carrington was a deal. The Holmes move up. The Knicks, kind of decided to make some maneuvers in and out. I think there were like 5 or 6 trades involving picks here, right?
Yeah. I was a little surprised we didn't get we didn't end up getting the Grizzlies moving up for Clingan, even though he was there. I thought we were going to see something at 3 or 5, maybe even 6, and we ended up not getting those ones, even though we got eventually the big Dillingham one later on. So maybe a little bit of surprise with that.
Yep, that is correct. Okay, let's actually get out of here now because I need to stop talking.
I've noticed this is the first time where my voice is starting to get scratchy, and
it's starting to go.
I'm a little bit nervous for tomorrow because I got to record a Pistons podcast. We have weights in the morning. I got a radio spot by the end of and I will also say I'm excited for the second round. I'm sure our listenership maybe not even close. I don't care. I'm excited to go through the second round. I think that's where we really make our money, Sam.
That's where we're gonna thrive. The second round.
We can actually talk about these guys when, with all due respect, there's not everybody can. That's what I'll say.
Talking about Kyshawn Johnson, just going deep.
Let's go.
I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. 6 a.m. tomorrow. Let's lock in. We're going to be ready. We'll be live probably around like 5:45, I would guess, to be honest. We'll probably go like a little bit beforehand just to
for people in America. This is 3:45 Eastern is what Sam means.
That's correct. Yeah. We're 3:45.
I'm sure we have Australian listeners and viewers, so you're just being respectful to them with the time change.
That's true. I'm ready. Okay. Keep it locked here. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter. I tweeted some stuff out. You can find all my scouts, all of that stuff, podcasts I do, whatever. Just follow me over there, and you'll be able to get anything you need. I appreciate you guys. Otherwise, I'm always here with Sam on Game Theory Podcast. Go
to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We will be back at some point tomorrow, I think 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, we will talk through the rest of this draft. I will have winners and losers up at The Athletic tonight. And now I'm going to go work on a a second round mock draft now. So that's where we're going. Okay. Until next time, folks, we will talk soon.